Hi guys, it's me, ChazzaHD, and welcome to the race watch-along for the 2019 Japanese Grand Prix. Of course, qualifying ended only 2 hours ago, but now it's time for the race in just under an hour's time. I cannot wait for this race. I think we have a grid that is definitely of interest, given what's happened as of late between certain drivers. And I think we have got a good battle as well in the midfield from about P9 all the way back to P18. So yeah, looking forward to this Grand Prix. Hopefully you guys are doing well after qualifying. If you just woke up, hello to you, and hopefully you're doing well. If you stayed up, great to see you here again. But now, for the main event of the evening, I guess, especially if you're in North America, the race for the 2019 Japanese Grand Prix, and I cannot wait for it. But before, of course, we get into the teams and how I think they are going to do in the race and what we can expect from the teams and drivers in the race. In case you don't know what the results of qualifying were, let me now update you as to what happened. So, in qualifying, Sebastian Vettel took his 5th pole position at Suzuka from Charles Leclerc 2nd, a Ferrari front row, Bottas 3rd, Hamilton 4th, Verstappen 5th and Albon 6th. And then completing the top 10, Sainz, Norris, Gasly and Grosjean. Knockdown Q2 was Antonio Giovinazzi, Lance Stroll, Kimi Raikkonen, Daniel Kvyat and Nico Hülkenberg. And then disappointingly knocked out in Q1, Daniel Ricciardo, Sergio Perez, and then Russell, Magnussen and Kubica. Of course, Magnussen and Kubica crashed. That's why they didn't get through, even though Kubica would have finished at the back anyway. But now, let's get into the teams and preview how I think they are going to do. So first off, the Silver Arrows Mercedes. Now, in qualifying, it's not too disappointing and it's not too surprising, to be honest, that they've ended up in P3 and P4, because coming to this weekend after the past couple races, we knew Ferrari had in qualifying trim the best car for this track, and once they finally turned it up, Ferrari, they showcased that. So not that big of a deal or big of a surprise that Mercedes are on the second row of the grid. The only surprise for me is that Valtteri Bottas out-qualified Lewis Hamilton. Lewis, apparently, after qualifying, was not happy with the car. And considering that, qualifying ended only 2 hours ago, I'm not sure what the team can do to really help that. So look out for what Lewis Hamilton might struggle with in the race. But if they can beat one of the Ferraris at the start line, or off the start line rather, then they can win the race. There is no doubt about that. But if Ferrari do get away 1 and 2, even if Mercedes run longer to put on, 10-lap fresher tyres, I just don't see how Mercedes beat Ferrari. I don't see it, because even if they have much fresher tyres, how are they going to pass a Ferrari in the straight line? Unless they're at least a second a lap quicker, it's not going to happen. So if they're going to win, it's really going to come down to the start of the race. If they get a car into P2 or even P1, I think they can absolutely win. But if it's a 1-2 for Ferrari, it's going to need luck or a miracle for them to win the race. So at the start, look out for Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton. I'm sure they'll be told by the team that they've got to go for it and try and make up a position, because P3 and P4, at least at the start, or most at the start rather, I don't really think can be quite tolerated for this team if they are going to go on and win. Also, Mercedes can win the Constructors' World Championship in this Grand Prix. If they outscore Ferrari by 14 points, the Mercedes will win the Constructors' title for the 6th consecutive time. So that is a possibility of course, what can happen today. And definitely look out for how Mercedes do at the start, because again, that is really going to be where the race is won and lost, I think, at the very front of the grid. Next up is Ferrari, and again, Ferrari 1-2 finish in qualifying, the perfect result. Can they convert that in the race? Most likely, yes, because Ferrari, I think, have a good enough car to do so. And as I've just said, if they can maintain a 1-2 at the end of the first lap, I don't see how Ferrari don't win the race. The thing, though, that is going to be so interesting to look out for is the battle between Vettel and Leclerc and what Ferrari do when it comes to tactics for the race. Will they do the same as Russia? Most likely not, because they have both cars in the front row. They don't need to slipstream another car past one another, so I don't think that's really a possibility. But will they try some team play to stop Bottas or Hamilton or even Verstappen, being able to attack and compete with Ferrari? They might, but they also might not. But I think, honestly, today, if I'm Ferrari, this is what I say. Get away 1 and 2. You can fight down to the first corner, but after that, I would probably call off any battle because they need to get a 1-2 finish. They need to repair the damage of Russia, and I think they need to work as a team today because they've got to replace the points they lost in Russia. So I think you'll see both drivers fight down to the first couple corners for the lead of the Grand Prix. But after that, if Ferrari are smart, they'll say, right, after the first lap, that's it. No more racing between you two. If they have enough of a brain, they will do that. But as we've seen with Ferrari in the past, that's not quite been the case in the past. So, Ferrari, they've got everything in front of them. They've got exactly what they need to win this race. Hopefully, they can win the race from their point of view. But again, it's all down to the first lap. If they get it right, they are in a great position for the rest of the race. And next up is Red Bull, who are basically one of, if not the, most supported team this weekend, of course, of Honda Power. And if Honda are going to be on the podium, it is, of course, going to be Red Bull on the podium. So, Red Bull, what can they do in this race? Well, again, at the start, I think it really does come down to the start for me because Max Verstappen, I think, after his first and only pit stop, I think Max can make progress after that because I think he can definitely get after Valtteri and Lewis in their respective cars. But if Max is going to compete absolutely, genuinely, for sure, for a podium, he's got to try and make up a position on the first lap because the Red Bull is going to be dropped at quite a bit, I think, in the first few laps compared to Ferrari. And if Mercedes do have a very good race pace, then it's going to be a struggle for Red Bull. So if Max can make up a place and get even into P4, then he's right in play to compete for a podium, which I think that has to be the aim for Red Bull. Are Red Bull going to win today? No, I don't think they will, unless we get a crazy race or a very exciting race with lots of overtaking. So Red Bull have got to try and work out how strategically and at the start they can get a podium because that is what has got to be their aim. Also, it will be very interesting to see whether Albon can hang on to Max Verstappen in this race because, of course, Albon set the exact same lap time as Max Verstappen in qualifying. So it'll be interesting to see what Albon can do and whether, again, he can hang on to Max in the race. If he can, I think there is a good finish waiting for him if he can hang on to Max during the race. So hopefully he can. But for Red Bull, yeah, third place I think is the best they can hope for, I'm afraid. I thought Red Bull could have won this race coming into this weekend, but qualifying just wasn't quite what they were hoping for, I think. And apparently that's because Red Bull did not go aggressive enough in their setup of their car. So maybe that is why they didn't quite do as well as they were hoping at what is one of their home races in the Formula 1 calendar. But guys, before we get into the midfield, let me know right now in the live chat for the top teams after qualifying. What do you think they'll do? How do you think they'll perform? Do you think Ferrari are the favourites to win like I think? And what do you think will happen when it comes to tactics at Ferrari between Vettel and Leclerc? Let me know in the live chat as well. How can Mercedes win today? Let me know in the chat. And for Red Bull, can they compete for a podium, or is even that too much for Red Bull? Let me know right now in the chat, and I'll read out your comments for the next 10 minutes or so. Just want to say, though, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, as We do watch-alongs consistently for the rest of 2019 for Practice 2, qualifying and the race, and we'll do the same in Mexico in 2 weeks' time. So don't forget to subscribe for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. Or go to my homepage and do it there, and hit the notifications bell so you're notified as to when I go live and upload videos. As well, don't forget to smash that like button for more content like this, and smash a like button to help out the channel. But now, let's see what you guys have to say in the chat. By the way, great to see 150 of you here already. Again, great commitment from you guys in chat. Right, let's see what you guys are saying. Serugara saying Alexander Albon will be on the podium before the year ends. Maybe at Mexico. Not sure though if that'll happen. Walter Wanami, I am tuned in, the best F1 channel ever. Thank you very much for that. I really do appreciate it. Find some other comments here. Zen says the race is going to be between Max and Hamilton. That'll be interesting to see, especially at the start. Matthew Felton, quali was right after I got home from work, so worked out well for me. And he also says, I think Ferrari will be fine. Harith Zach says, Mercedes still can win on pace, although Ferrari on the front row. Indeed. I think if all the teams ran in clean air today, I think Mercedes have the best car for race conditions, but if you don't quite have enough speed on the straights or you don't have the grid position, then you can't always utilize that. There's been plenty of races in Formula One history where the team that's won the race hasn't had the fastest car in the race, but because they have grid position and have been able to control the race or stuff like that, they've gone on to win the race. So again, they do have a good car, Mercedes, when it comes to pace over the 53 laps we're going to have today, but they don't have grid position. But if they can make a great start, then they can really utilize that. But they don't have the grid position to win the race, I think, considering the pace difference between them and Ferrari. Find some other comments from you guys, though. Look at some other comments. Frederick saying, okay, Ferrari will win. They'll give Vettel the preference. Mercedes will focus on Lewis. Red Bull may have to settle for P4 and P6. I'm not sure Mercedes will give Lewis the preference because, Valtteri was faster in qualifying. And if Valtteri, say, gets up to P2 and Lewis is still in P4, they're going to have to put all their eggs in the Valtteri-Bottas basket because he will have a much bigger chance or window of opportunity to win the race than Lewis will in P4. So, again, it does come down to the start. It really does come down to the start. If Lewis wants to take the fight to Ferrari, he's got to, one, get ahead of Valtteri somehow at the start. If he does that, then he can put Ferrari under a bit of pressure. But if they get away the top 6, for example, in grid formation, it's going to be really tough for anyone other than Ferrari to win this race, unless they beat themselves. Let me look at some of the comments. And says, got to say that was a crazy qualifying. It wasn't too crazy, but it was at the start. It had its moments, didn't it? With Robert Kubica just sailing off into the barriers, Timo Glock style. And then Kevin Magnussen spinning and then for some reason reversing at full speed into a barrier, which I still find quite funny that he decided just to reverse. And I find it also a bit funny that he didn't know there was a barrier there. It's pretty obvious there's a barrier there. And as I talked about in my preview for this race on Thursday, Suzuka's a very narrow track. So if you go off the track, you're going to be in the barriers or in the gravel. So I do not get what Kevin Magnussen was trying to do. Silver Arrows will win this one, says Walter Wanami. The ego of those drivers in the Ferrari is a big problem. I understand your point, but will it be today, though? I think in a long-term perspective, say going into 2020, yeah, I think the egos of Vettel and Leclerc is a problem for Ferrari. But if you're looking at just this race, they might have a quick enough car, and Vettel might be quick enough to just completely shut down any Charles Leclerc hope of winning. So I'm not sure today that Ferrari are going to have a similar race to Russia, where, you know, there's lots of team order, you know, rubbish and stuff like that. But yeah, in the long term, I think that is a problem for Ferrari, that if they do have two equal drivers in a car that's equalish, even if it's slightly better than the Mercedes, that is a problem in a long-term way for the team. Right, let's find some other comments before we go on to the midfield. Now, I think the midfield is going to be quite competitive behind McLaren, who I have to say, McLaren, they are in a league of their own in the midfield. I mean, they're like Mercedes a few years ago compared to the midfield. They're F1.25, basically. Sebastian says Mercedes' only chance of winning is strategy or having a race like Russia. Yeah, I think, as I said, luck or a miracle is how they win if they get away in third and fourth place at best from the start, Mercedes. So it'll be interesting to see, though, how much they attack, because going down into turn 1 and turn 2, you've got to be careful, because, again, it's a very narrow piece of track, turn 1 and turn 2. Got to be very careful when you go diving down the inside, because you can easily do what Grosjean did in 2012 and take someone out, or if you go around the outside, there's a big chance you can get a bit of oversteer and get into the grass or gravel. So they need to be aggressive, but maybe not into turn 1, because might end up in a crash. Right, let me find a couple more comments, and then we'll get to that midfield. Blue flag Alpha. Strong wind. Yep, absolutely. Was in qualifying. Mike, Albon was good, as quick as Max. Absolutely. And hopefully Albon, I mean, he doesn't have to do literally that, match Max Verstappen in qualifying on lap time, but if he's within a quarter of a second, that's enough. I've never said with Gasly and Albon that they've got to beat Max Verstappen. They don't. They're number 2 drivers at Red Bull. They're not supposed to beat Max Verstappen. What they need to do is complement Max Verstappen by being close enough so that if Max needs help, he has a teammate who is, I don't know, on the same lap, unlike other drivers. So if he can be in the race, you know, a quarter of a second a lap at worst off Max's pace, then Albon will be in a decent position by the end of the race. No doubt about that. Right, let's find one final comment. Nominal times. I'll read this one out. Vettel outdrives Leclerc on experience alone. Charles has more raw talent. I think that's probably why, to be honest, Sebastian Vettel got on pole, is because he's raced around here so many times. It's his best track, but also he's won and had pole position here so many times that if he does have the fastest car for qualifying, pretty hard to bet against him, even though I did for qualifying. But yeah, I think Vettel's speed this weekend compared to Leclerc, it's more so experience and speed. I think if Leclerc had a bit more experience around Suzuka, I think Leclerc probably could have been right on pole position. But yeah, Sebastian's raced around here for so long and has been so great here that he's obviously very comfortable in a position to get pole position. Also, the last time we had qualifying on a Sunday morning at Suzuka was 2010, and Vettel that weekend got pole and won the race. So he has experience of that as well. So yeah, just adds to my point. But anyway, let's now get into the midfield, and first off, Renault. Qualifying basically just sums up their season. Just the promise is there, but when it matters, nothing. Just nothing. Daniel Ricciardo in 16th place. Clearly, Ricciardo was not happy with that Renault because this is not like a bad track for Ricciardo. If you look at his history, he's never been amazing or great here, but most of the time in his history at Suzuka, Daniel Ricciardo has been good, considering the pace of the car he's been driving. So to qualify P16, you'd have to say that's probably the car just not being good enough, which is a real shame because, Renault this weekend have brought a new front wing. I don't know yet if they're actually using the new front wing, but again, if they are, then how bad is that for Renault to be that far back? And then Hülkenberg P15. Hülkenberg qualified in 15th, not because he was too slow, but because he had a hydraulic issue at the end of qualifying 2. From what I've heard, though, he should be fine for the race because they caught the issue early enough to fix it without putting a new power unit or, new parts in the car. So Hülkenberg should be fine to start in P15, but P15 and P16 for Renault, I'm sorry, that is not good enough at this point of the season. Renault started a bit slow, but at this point of the season, they should be, consistently a lot faster than they were earlier on the season, considering the amount of money they put into Formula One and how much they are trying, apparently, to eventually be a top team, but it's just not happening for Renault. And, well, it's a shame for the drivers because both of them are good at Suzuka rather, but yeah, I just don't see what they could do for the race. They clearly don't have the pace to be in the top 10. I mean, the McLarens, they'll be in the top 10 for sure. Gasly's looked very quick. Grosjean will drop back, but you've got drivers in front of the Renaults like Stroll, Kvyat, Raikkonen, and Giovinazzi who are in cars who, those cars on race day tend to be good cars. So I don't really see what Renault can do today. Maybe get to P12. But even if they get P10, this weekend has just been terrible. And it is a shame, but that's just the story of Renault in 2019. Next up is McLaren. And yeah, McLaren, as I said earlier, they're in a league of their own. They have their own race. Basically, them and, their drivers, basically. P7 and P8. Miles ahead of Gasly and Grosjean and the rest. And the incredible thing is, their car looks so comfortable to drive. So comfortable to drive. And I'm telling you, if McLaren had Mercedes or Ferrari levels of power, I think McLaren are in the top team fight at the moment. That's how quick they are. And what makes it even more incredible is McLaren have barely touched their car in terms of new, aerodynamic parts since the French Grand Prix. And we've come to Suzuka almost 10 races later, and they're even quicker than they were before. So it is incredible how McLaren at this point are just turning up to races and comfortably getting a fourth row lockout. And you have to say, it is exciting times ahead if you're a McLaren fan. In the race today, if anything, happens ahead that causes one of the top 6 to retire, McLaren will then inherit that position. McLaren are so far ahead of, Gasly and Grosjean. Even if they drop behind a couple places at the start, they'll have the pace over the race to still, finish at the front of the midfield. They're that quick. And I think McLaren, they're in a very good position. But again, if they had Ferrari or Mercedes levels of power, I'm telling you, that car, that is a real good McLaren car. And that's exciting, of course, for 2021 and beyond when they, inherit a Mercedes power unit. But now let's go to Alfa Romeo. Alfa's qualifying was basically as expected. They were never expected to be top 10 runners, but be just on the outside looking in. And that's exactly where they find themselves for the Japanese Grand Prix. I've got to say again, Antonio Giovinazzi, great performance to out-qualify Kimi Raikkonen. A Kimi Raikkonen that has won this race before, been on the podium many times before at this race, and has raced here since 2001. To just turn up with only one real session before qualifying in practice 2, to turn up and out-qualify Kimi Raikkonen is a great job. It really, really is. And you have to say, since the Canadian Grand Prix, which feels light years ago, he's been really good. He really has, especially in qualifying. In the race, he hasn't quite got it all together, but in qualifying, he's a better driver than Kimi Räikkönen when it comes to pace over a single lap. If he just is a bit more consistent in the race, I think Antonio is a real good F1 driver, which is surprising for me to say because I did not rate Antonio one bit before we came into 2019. And going into the race, considering how Alfa can be at times in the race, they can get points. It won't be many though. I think at best P10 most likely, because I think the two McLarens and I think honestly Pierre Gasly in P9 probably do have a quick enough car to hold off, Giovinazzi, Raikkonen in this Grand Prix, but they can beat Grosjean for sure. And as long as they don't have a bad start like they had last race in Russia, I think Alfa are definitely contenders for a top 10 here at Suzuka. Next up is Haas. Romain Grosjean, P10. Good job, even though it's a track he always does well at, so it's not exactly a surprise. But still, P10. Drove better, of course, than Kevin Magnussen, who I don't even know what he was doing again for his crash, but, spinning at the final corner and then reversing into the wall for no real reason. Not great for him. Magnussen, by the way, I think he's taking on a new gearbox. Obviously, the way he reversed into that wall, it'd be a shock if he didn't have to take on a new gearbox, but yeah, Magnussen, he will start P19. He probably won't get anywhere near the points. Grosjean, though, because we're on the hardest compound tyres for this race, and the Haas race pace is improving, I don't think Roman will finish in the points, but don't be surprised if he did. Because again, the Haas car is improving when it comes to speed on a Sunday. So don't be massively surprised if, halfway into the race, Roman is setting quite competitive lap times and is, able to be comfortably or, just about in the top 10. So don't be surprised if that happens. But yeah, Haas, they've got a decent chance of points, but I'm not sure they'll get it. Next up is Toro Rosso. Yeah, Gasly, one of the stars of qualifying, P9. And what was great about Gasly is in qualifying, he was consistently that good throughout the entire session, constantly getting in the top 8 or 9. Yeah, great drive by Gasly. And the Toro Rosso, you have to say, does look a good car this weekend. In a similar way to Silverstone. If you remember back to that Grand Prix, they had a similar car pace-wise to how they, what they have this weekend. And because Renault are where they are in P15 and P16, as long as Toro Rosso finish in the points, that's all that matters. Hopefully there's crashes and, reliability issues for cars ahead, because then Gasly can inherit more points. But if Renault don't finish in the points, Toro Rosso have to, because I'm telling you, they can beat Renault in the Constructors. It is a possibility. All they've got to do is believe and make sure they have a near perfect final 5 races. And starting today at what is one of their home races, if they can bang in a good result today, I'm telling you, it's a possibility for the rest of 2019 for them to catch Renault and beat them in the Constructors. And the final midfield team is Racing Point. And yeah, their qualifying was a bit weird, considering in practice 1 and 2 they were quite quick. Perez, P17. Don't quite know why he ended up so far down. I think similar to Ricciardo, the car just wasn't feeling that great for him. But also, what is very surprising, you have to say, about this Grand Prix, or the qualifying, for the Grand Prix so far, is that Lance Stroll out-qualified Sergio Perez. I think for the first time in 2019. That is incredible. Because as we know, Stroll has been really poor in qualifying. So it's a very nice thing to see that Stroll, not only did he out-qualify Perez, but he's in a good position, Stroll, P12. And I don't think he is going to be that far away from a points finish. To be honest, like Toro Rosso, with Renault starting far back, Racing Point do need to finish in the top 10. Because again, Racing Point are close to Renault. I think Racing Point are only 3 points behind Toro Rosso. So both Racing Point and Toro Rosso need to score points if Renault don't. And Stroll, I think, he's in there. Similar way to Giovinazzi and Raikkonen. He's absolutely in play for a points finish. And of course, at the back is Williams. Robert Kubica, I don't think will take the start because they've had to put a new chassis in. And I don't see how they can get to the start of the race with only 29 minutes to go. But for the midfield guys, let me know for the next 10 minutes, for the midfield teams, what do you think will happen? Who do you think will be the best in the midfield today, driver-wise and team-wise? For me, it'll be McLaren and Carlos Sainz. But also, who are the other teams and drivers we need to look out for in the midfield? Do you think, Alfa or Toro Rosso can have a good race? Do you think Renault can come back from where they're starting to somehow finish in the points? Let me know in the chat for the next 8 minutes, and I'll read out your comments before we get into the predictions part of this stream. And then I'll bring Nib on in a moment, who, by the way, is on the stream. He is waiting to be included in the stream. So yeah, we'll bring him on in about 15 minutes time. Let's see what you guys have to say. Find what you guys have to say here. Racing Stroll going to Q3 at Italy. Japan is second time Stroll has out-qualified Perez. Oh yes, Italy. I've completely forgot about that. Well, I've been trying to forget about qualifying in Italy because it was such a farce. Yeah, he did, didn't he? He did, and then got took out by Vettel in the race. Yeah, I remember that. He was good that weekend, Stroll. Could have got a good amount of points, but yeah. Right, let's find some other comments from you guys. Mika says, Russell, I think, should go to Renault and gain experience and show how good he can really be, then move on to a top team. Problem is, and let's be honest, the reason Ocon is going to Renault is because, one, he's French, and from a PR and sponsorship point of view, it really is a great thing if you can have the same countrymen and same team, have the same nationality. So let's be honest, that is a big factor as to why Ocon is at Renault. But that's also a reason that Russell will not go to Renault because he's British. And that's why I think, him at Williams is a good fit for now, in terms of the way the team, interact with him, because it's a British team. I think Russell would really work well at Racing Point. He's actually driven for them before in practice one in Brazil in 2017, I believe. If he drove for them, I think you'd see Russell really gelling in that team. But he's not going to, is he? Because Perez and Stroll are signed up to quite a long contract, even though that could easily be broken beforehand. But Stroll is going to stay in that team, and Perez is probably going to stay at Racing Point until he leaves Formula One. So I'm not quite sure where Russell goes past 2020, 2021. If Bottas leaves Mercedes, then maybe Russell goes there. But yeah, I don't see him going to Renault. I really don't see that. Right, let's find a few more comments. Seven Suspect, remember when Marco said Red Bull would win 5 races this season? Well, if you look at the season, they've had the opportunity to be in that position quite a lot of times. Monaco, Red Bull could have won that race if Max had made it past early enough Lewis to build a 5-second lead because of the penalty he had. Austria, he won. Hockenheim, he won. Hungary, Red Bull were very, very close to winning. And since then, they could have won Singapore, but most likely they didn't quite have the speed, I think. But, I mean, that's 4 races there that they either have won or could have won. So, I don't necessarily think his prediction is too outlandish. I think it's just the circumstances of that particular race or races is the reason Red Bull so far, or they probably won't by the end of the season, fulfill that target. I think they've had the car good enough, pace-wise, to have 5 race wins this season. But they just haven't, when it's mattered most, they haven't, banged in that overtake or those few laps or anything like that. So, not too bad of a prediction. And you never know, could happen, because after this race, we got Mexico and Cota, and those races Red Bull have always been great at. So, it's not impossible that they can get another 3 race wins. Look at some other comments here. Nightbot, Kvyat and Grosjean, obviously, as they yeet everyone out of existence like I did when the shackles were free. Oh, that's great. Nightbot has been released. Find comments. We'll find a couple more comments and then we'll go on to the predictions for this race. Drew says Ferrari better secure this one too. Well, they've got to, but as I'll get onto in a moment, their history at Suzuka is not that great, as I'll get onto in a moment when it comes to 1-2 finishes and race victory. What do Merc need to do to win the constructors? Asks Apex Racing. I said at the start of the stream, but I'll say it again. If Mercedes outscore Ferrari by 14 points, so basically, if they get a 1-2 finish, then they'll win the constructors. But if Ferrari, if one car drops out, then yeah, 14 points more than Ferrari at this race, and Mercedes will win the constructors for the 6th consecutive time. But most likely, they'll do it in Mexico. And obviously, Lewis is about to win the Drivers' Championship. And if Lewis, by the way, just to let you guys know, Lewis Hamilton officially cannot win the driver's title today. But if he beats Valtteri Bottas today and in Mexico, then officially Lewis will be a 6-time world champion. So it looks as though, yet again, he's going to do it in Mexico as Lewis. And, the team are as well. Look at some other comments, couple final comments before we get up to the predictions. The racing saying there, I think you're saying he's been up for 18 hours. I haven't been up for that long, but I really do respect all you guys again for being here, because it's been a very busy, hectic last few hours, qualifying, then the race, and the race is only 20 minutes away. So respect for all you guys for being here, and I cannot wait for the race. And yeah, this is my 3rd video in the last 5 hours, and there'll be another video after this one. So yeah, I've really committed myself for this one. Right, let me find one final comment. By the way, Orest says greetings to all from Western New York. Greetings to you. Hopefully you're doing well, mate. And find one final. JB, who will finish 3rd in the standings by the end of the season? Charles Leclerc. Mostly because the Ferrari car will be good enough to be, up in P1, P2 for a long enough time in the final 5 races. I think Max deserves it, to be honest, based on the driving. But Leclerc will most likely get it based on a combination of both his form improving and also the car's form improving. Yeah, that's what I think will happen. But it's now time, guys, to get into my predictions for the 2019 Japanese Grand Prix with 20 minutes to go until the race. Let me know right now, guys, in the live chat, what do you think will happen? Who's winning this race? Who's finishing 2nd? Who's finishing 3rd? P4, P5, P6. And if you want to do the top 10, you can. But let me know right now in that live chat what you think will happen. And once me and Nib have made our predictions, and for the final 12-13 minutes, I'll be reading your predictions out before the race gets underway at a very sunny but blustery Suzuka. So now, let's get into it. So, winning this race, in my opinion, will be Sebastian Vettel because he'll get away P1 and because he is so experienced at this track of winning the race and, of course, in Formula 1 in general, at leading the pack away, he will in the first few laps, like he did in Russia, just build a gap relentlessly and will win the race, I think, quite comfortably. Again, it will be interesting to see what happens at turn 1 and turn 2 on the first lap. But as long as Vettel gets away fine, I think Sebastian Vettel does win this Grand Prix quite comfortably. If he does win, it'll be his 5th race win in Japan, and I think he'll go second all time for race victories at Suzuka if he does do that. But also, again, as I said earlier in my qualifying stream and earlier on in this stream, history is against Ferrari because Ferrari are going for their first win in Japan since 2004. That year, it was Michael Schumacher on pole and then Michael Schumacher dominantly winning the race. So it's been a long time, 15 years since Ferrari have won at Suzuka. Can they do it today? I think they will. In P2 will be the other Ferrari driver, of course, of Charles Leclerc. I think he'll get away P2, and then I think he'll just, he won't be right next to Vettel throughout the race, but he'll be able to sit behind, 2 or 3 seconds behind, and with Sebastian Vettel, pull away from the rest of the field. And I think because of the pace of the Ferrari in a straight line, even if Hamilton and Bottas can put on much fresher tyres and really be competitive later on, I just don't see how Leclerc will be passed in a straight line, even if, he gets put under pressure. But if he does win, it'll be his first win in Japan, of course. And also, if Ferrari do get a 1-2 finish, it'll be their first 1-2 in Japan since 2002. That year, Ferrari basically obliterated anyone who breathed in their direction. They won, every race except 2 in 2002. And obviously that was back in the Schumacher-Barrichello days. So yeah, they get a 1-2. That's a pretty good omen going forward for the rest of the season and going into 2020 as well. So hopefully from their point of view, they do it. And then P3, I'm going to go with Lewis Hamilton because I think Lewis somehow, some way will have the pace to beat Valtteri in the Grand Prix. And I think Lewis, even though in qualifying he was off the pace, I think, again, he is very good at this track. As long as Lewis Hamilton can get enough clean air, maybe after people are pitted, to set some laps, I think Lewis will be absolutely fine. I mean, we've seen this in the past at other races in 2019, where Lewis has not had that good of a qualifying, but still had a great race. Hungary, he got out-qualified by Valtteri in Hungary, and look how great he was in the race. Same at Silverstone. So, he'll be fine. He'll be fine for pace against his teammate, but I don't think he'll get ahead of any of the Ferraris at the start, and that will affect the team's race result, and they'll finish in P3 with Lewis Hamilton, then Valtteri will finish in P4, Max Verstappen will finish in P5, Albon P6, and then in the midfield I'll probably go Sainz and Norris, Gasly, and then I'm going to go for Lance Stroll in P10. But if Lewis does win, it'll be his 5th win at Suzuka, and it will overtake Sebastian Vettel, I believe, for that. But also the team are going for their 6th consecutive victory in Japan. They can get it, but again, they're going to need things to go their way. But yeah, guys, keep letting us know in the live chat what you think is going to happen. But now it's time to bring on Nib for the Watchalong. And Nib, how you doing, mate? And what do you think is going to happen in the race?
I am doing very well. Now, some of you would think that, Nib, qualifying was on at midday for you in down in Melbourne, Australia. But yeah, no, that's not a good time for me. So I missed qualifying. I was asleep because I was up for about 20 hours before that. So I missed qualifying. Of course, I'm all caught up now on qualifying. I watched the highlights, and of course, I've been talking to Chaz just before this, but I think we're going to have an extremely diverse prediction here. It must be said. So winning the race is going to be Sebastian Vettel, in my opinion. It's extremely difficult to overtake at this track. Obviously, it's become a lot easier to overtake down into 130R, down into the final chicane than what it was in previous years. I've certainly noticed that, but yeah, then finishing second, of course, very diverse. Going to be Charles Leclerc finishing second. Um, no one's going to overtake Ferrari in a straight line, and I don't think Mercedes are going to get the jump on them in a pit stop, as the undercut certainly isn't as strong at Suzuka as what it was, say, in Singapore or in Russia even. So, yeah, Charles Leclerc finishing second. And then for me, finishing third is going to be Lewis Hamilton. I think he will find his way past Valtteri and will end up finishing in third place. So, yeah, very diverse prediction there by myself. Totally original. So, yeah, that's what I think is going to happen in the race. But also, watch out for the good old classic gust of wind, of course, after the typhoon this weekend. It is a bit blowy, just a little bit, and who knows, we could see some drivers absolutely blown into the fence.
Yeah, maybe. Magnussen and Kubica, I think that definitely contributed to their crashes. But that's what Nib thinks will happen. Now let's hear what you guys think will happen. And let me now also switch pictures to this one. And we've only got 13 and a half minutes to go until the race. So, go to the start of these predictions and read them out. Mr. BRN says Hamilton first, Bottas second, Leclerc third. Drew thinks Vettel will run away with it. VJ Garv says Bottas wins, Hamilton second, Alexander Albon third. What else have we got? Exo Rock says Vettel, Leclerc, Hamilton. Matthew Felton says Vettel, Leclerc, Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, Albon. And then Sainz, Norris, Ricciardo, Gasly, and Antonio Giovinazzi. GS X-Man says Hamilton, Leclerc, Verstappen, Vettel will crash in his opinion. Frank Francis, Hulkenberg win. Dag Sid says, looking forward to see Vettel versus Leclerc. It's going to be feisty down to turn one, because I think anyone of those two that comes out in the lead on the exit of turn two will probably be the driver that is protected to win the race. So yeah, it's going to be very feisty down to turn one. Crystal Racing, is it a bit crazy to think Kimi will win? Well, he's only won at Suzuka. He was from further back on the grid, so you never know. Find some other comments here. Frederick, Vettel, Leclerc, Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, Albon, Norris, Sainz, Grosjean, Gasly. VJ Garv says what Bottas, Hamilton, Albon, like he said earlier, but also he completes the rest by saying Leclerc, Sainz, Verstappen, Norris, Vettel, Gasly, Grosjean. So he's going for a bit of a crazy race. Others here can. Timster says Leclerc, Vettel, Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, Albon. Ife Kerr says a Ferrari will retire. Well, they have been a bit bad when it comes to reliability this season. So if Mercedes can still push them, even though they're not ahead of them, then maybe they can push them into a reliability issue. Find some others if we can. Get Crystal Racing saying, yeah, Raikkonen started from P17 when he won the race. And Frank Francis saying nobody has ever won from the second row of the grid. I think, has there been anyone? I don't think so. I think you're right. I think Romain Grosjean came very close in 2013 to winning, and he started from fourth, I think. But yeah, I can't remember anyone winning from the second row of the grid. Normally it's the front row or some mental race like 2005. As we're now, 10 minutes away from the race? Yeah, as we're 10 minutes away, Nib, just want to ask about the midfield and about your boy Daniel Ricciardo down in 16th place. And
I prefer not to speak.
Yeah, yeah, what do you think is going to happen in the midfield? Who are you looking out for in terms of progression up the field?
Well, certainly not Renault because they're absolutely awful. As you can tell, I'm a little bit fed up with Renault at this stage. Just want to move on to next season. With in terms of Renault, but well, McLaren, they're pretty darn good, aren't they? I think it's going to be quite comfortable for them. I really hope Antonio Giovinazzi has a good race because he has been very strong in qualifying, really since probably the French Grand Prix. He's out qualified Kimi on quite a few number of times now, actually, and he just hasn't been able to convert that into a good race result. So I think I'm certainly hoping for Antonio Giovinazzi to get a good finish. But apart from that, I really don't know what's going to happen in the midfield. Last year, we've seen a lot of issues with the tyres, and I think who knows what's going to happen this year.
Well, with the tyres, it's interesting, and it is a bit different compared to last year because last year we didn't have the hardest compounds brought to the race. This year we have the absolute hardest compounds of tyre at this Grand Prix. But from what I've heard, it is going to be an easy one stop. But one thing that will be different for the drivers and teams is that because there's little rubber on the track, that will make the knowledge of the tyres and stuff like that a bit different if it was, a completely dry weekend, like most weekends are in Formula One. But let's read out some more comments from you guys. Comment. Crystal Racing, Renault are terrible. Yeah. Yeah, they have been. Hanson, South Africa. The commentary comes back when the race starts. Well, I might as well just say now, for anyone who is watching new, what we do for the watch-alongs in case you are new to the channel. So, of course, we cannot show live video footage of the race because that would be breaking copyright law. So what we do is I will have a slideshow of pictures on the screen. By the way, if you saw my qualifying watch-along earlier, because I didn't have enough time to get new pictures, the slideshow will be the exact same pictures as it was for earlier. But it should keep you guys entertained. There's one every 3 minutes and plenty of pictures of the cars. So, yeah, there you go. We'll have a running order running along the bottom of the screen. I'll update it as many times as I can during the Grand Prix. We won't have a lap counter, but I will say we are getting closer to one. We are getting closer to a lap counter. Maybe I can get it in before the season finishes. And then me and Nib will basically just scream our heads off for 90 minutes, if the race is actually good, of course. And it's not like the Russian Grand Prix or the second half of that race. But yeah, me and Nib are going to provide basically a radio-style commentary. So if you can't watch the race, then listen to us because we will keep you absolutely up to date with what is happening at the track. And we'll also, because we won't have the lap counter on the screen, make sure to listen to us if you want to know what lap it is, because every 2 or 3 laps we'll say it's lap whatever out of 53, lap 10, lap 20, whatever. So as long as you listen to us, you'll be able to know what lap we are working on for that particular time period. As we are now 6.5 minutes to go until the race. Let me read out some final few comments and go to one more picture. And yeah, read out some final comments before we get underway. Right, let's find comments here. Matthew Felton says there honestly isn't a single driver I don't want to do well except Grosjean. He needs to make room for some fresh talent. The weird thing is, and this happened last season as well, is that before he got announced as being in the car for the next season, he was poor. But then since he's been announced, he's been quite good. So I don't get it. Where was this Romain Grosjean earlier on the season? I know the Haas car wasn't quite at his liking, but since Singapore, well, not since Singapore, since Russia, and even if you look at races like Hungary, Hockenheim, really since he collided with Kevin Magnussen, his teammate in Silverstone, he's been not that bad. So I don't get why in the first half of the last 2 seasons, this season and 2018, he's been non-existent. I don't get it. especially when in 2018 and 2019, in the first couple races, he's really competitive, and then something goes wrong, he loses confidence, and then he just completely drops away for about 10 races, and then comes back once he's announced as being in the team for the next season. Very, very weird whole deal there. Bristol Racing, Hulkenberg had a chat with Alfa for next season for a seat. It'd be very surprising if he got a seat next year because, again, Karun Chandhok said during the Italian Grand Prix weekend that when he took Antonio Giovinazzi's dad on a hot lap, that his dad told him that Antonio has already signed a contract for 2020. So, unless something has massively changed between Monza and, say, right now, I don't see why Alfa would go against that if that is the case, that, you know, Antonio has signed a contract for 2020. Nib, Hulkenberg, of course, who wants to stay in F1, but do you think he'll be in the Alfa for 2020?
Probably not. I don't know why they would get rid of Antonio Giovinazzi. He's shown a lot of promise, certainly in the second half of the season, to be a really good and solid Formula One midfield driver. So obviously Hulkenberg is a quality driver and should be on the grid. And the fact that he more than likely isn't going to be on the grid, quite honestly, is a bit of a joke. But you know, that's the sport at the end of the day. Stuff that shouldn't happen does happen, such as, you know, obviously Ocon not being on the grid for this season, you know, when Verline was kicked off the grid, stuff like that happens, and sadly some good drivers miss out on some seats. But I think ultimately Hulkenberg will miss out, and Giovinazzi will keep his spot at Alpha.
Yep, I think that's the case. And, you know, as you said, Nib, Formula One can be a bit unfair at times, but, you know, Formula One should be the 20 or 22 best drivers on the grid. But the thing is, Formula One has never been that. We've never had the 20 or 22 best drivers in motorsport in Formula One. So, you know, most of the drivers are the best in the world in, you know, whatever order you want to put them in. But there are always going to be some drivers in Formula One who are not as good as others who aren't in Formula One anymore. That's just the way it's always been. But as Crystal Racing just said in the chat, and I think it is true, that if you look at Giovinazzi this season and the way he's progressed, like Nib said, especially in the second half of the season, I don't see why you get rid of Antonio over a guy in Nico Hulkenberg who is probably just past his absolute peak of his career. And I mean, he's not going to be Alpha for that long anyway. He's only going to be Alpha for a couple years at most. Going to Alfa Romeo for Hulkenberg is not a long-term deal. But anyway, we've got...
And Chaz, just before we move on, I think that you can see, certainly at least from the mid-2000s, the actual quality of the grid has improved massively from those days. There are a lot better drivers on the grid that make up the full 20 drivers. So I think F1 has done a better job at that, of getting, you know, say the best drivers on the world on the grid. And I think we can see that throughout the last, certainly through the last couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. If you look at, say, 2005, 2006, there were some drivers on the grid that, shouldn't be allowed near a racing car, such as Ide. He was a famous Japanese driver, I think. But anyway, yeah. We now have 90, or just under 90 seconds to go until the, not race gets underway, but formation lap. So I think it is about time in a moment to get rid of the timer and to get the text all ready in the top left. And yet we get the formation lap underway in about a minute's time. And again, the grid, I might as well get it up now. So there you go. It is Vettel on pole from Leclerc, Bottas, Hamilton, Verstappen, Albon, Sainz, Norris, Gasly and Grosjean. That is the top 10. And then from P11 to P20, it is Giovinazzi, Stroll, Raikkonen, Kvyat, Hulkenberg, Ricciardo, Perez, and then Russell, Magnussen, and Kubica. I don't know if Kubica is racing or not, but even if he doesn't, then he'll be 20th because he'll be the first non-starter or retirement from the race anyway. But now get this text ready. Formation lap has not officially started, but will do in just a moment. Screen, there you go. Adjust it. Get the slideshow pictures up in a moment as well. As now, the mechanics abandon the cars. And we're about to get this formation lap underway in just a moment. And of course, the top 10 starting on soft compound tyres. Be interesting to see, though, what the bottom 10 are doing. And right, so Giovinazzi, medium, Stroll, soft compound, Kvyat and Hulkenberg, soft compound, Perez, soft compound, and then Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Russell, Magnus, and Kubica on the medium. And, well, being on the medium might not be too bad later on in the race, as the formation lap has now started, as the two Ferraris pull away at the front of the field, and Charles Leclerc, I think, does a little practice start maybe. Just went ahead of Vettel very, very slightly. Vettel has, of course, reclaimed P1.
But Chaz, some good news for Robert Kubica. Kubica's car is ready to go, and he will be starting from the pit lane.
Great job by the Williams mechanics, because I think they've had to basically completely rebuild the car in, 4 hours. So, yeah, very, very good job by Williams. And even though then, awful, their car is terrible, the mechanics trackside, they are still some of the, the best in motorsport. So, great on them for doing that. But now, let me get this slideshow up, and there you go. We'll play one picture every 3 minutes, as front of the field is now coming into the hairpin on the formation lap. And we're seeing the Drivers' Championship. And again, Lewis Hamilton cannot officially win his 6th title here, but he can, if he beats Bottas in this race and in Mexico, he will then win the World Championship. If Charles Leclerc doesn't, gain a lot of points very dramatically in this race or the next race. So we'll have to see. And again, Mercedes can win the Constructors. They outscore Ferrari by 14 points. So if they get a 1-2 finish, then Mercedes are Constructors World Champions for the 6th time, as half the field now coming through Spoon. I have to say, the bottom 10, they're quite far behind the rest of the pack. Vettel, I think, really getting on with this formation lap, as now the Ferraris come to the chicane. There is on the TV Mattia Binotto. Interesting to see if there's any tactics first few laps. I don't think there will be after Russia. As now the two Ferraris exit the final chicane, come on to the starting grid. Winning at Suzuka is a great thing to do, but if you're on the front row, then you've got a very, very good chance of doing it, because being on the front row historically here is very important thing, as two Ferrari cars, the two Silver Arrows, the two Red Bulls now come onto the grid as they all warm their tyres up. And now the two McLarens. Of course, Red Bull, this is kind of one of their home races. Vettel and Leclerc line up on the front row, and Leclerc looks like he's slightly pointed towards Vettel. Hey?
Slightly. I think he certainly is there.
So that's clear what his intentions are. But I'll get this text ready if I can. The race is about to start, as Robert Kubica is about to come out of garage, and the final cars are now forming the grid for the 2019 Japanese Grand Prix. As now the green flag at the back waves, and the lights come on. It's 3, 4, 5, and go at Suzuka. And what a start by Valtteri Bottas. He's in the lead, and Lewis Hamilton going for the inside, and Leclerc. Bottas leads the Grand Prix. Max Verstappen out of nowhere. Contact! Verstappen's surely out of the race. And that was Vettel, I think. Oh, no, Leclerc.
That was Leclerc.
That was Leclerc. Verstappen tried to sail it round the outside, but what a start by Bottas.
Leclerc had some damage, front wing damage on Leclerc.
Yeah, the end fence is damaged for sure, as it's all going off in the midfield as well. But, Big contact. I would be surprised if Max Verstappen can continue. Look at that. The two McLarens have got ahead of got ahead of Alexander Albon. Horrible start for Red Bull as Bottas leads from Vettel. And then Charles Leclerc, any moves at the hairpin? I think of Renault, I think that was Ricciardo trying to move on Perez, but that doesn't come off. But yeah, Verstappen basically at the back, and yeah, Leclerc's going to have to pit. That's dragging kind of on the floor or on the ground. He'll have to come in. And we've also got Stroll in P9. Another great start. Here we go. I'm not sure what to make of that. And then, Hamilton very lucky to get ahead of that McLaren into turn 3, I think. But what a crazy first lap. And this is great for Mercedes as Valtteri Bottas is now in the lead as we now begin lap 2. And Lewis, he's going to have to pit Leclerc. That's very dangerous. Very dangerous. And Leclerc still in P3 ahead of Hamilton, but that's only a matter of time until either that falls off or he comes or gets, overtook by Lewis Hamilton. But yeah, Bottas is in P1.
And certainly if Ferrari don't pit Charles Leclerc, they'll be called in by the stewards to pit, as that bodywork is in a dangerous position. That's for sure. Yeah,
no doubt about it. Can't have it scraping against the floor like that. So it's Bottas leading from Vettel 2nd, Leclerc 3rd, Hamilton 4th, Carlos Sainz is up to 5th. Max Verstappen, by the way, is going again. There's debris ahead of him. I think that might be his debris from earlier on. And also, look at his mirror. His mirror's hanging off as well. They're all falling apart. And Leclerc's car, he's dropping bits of debris. That might be a safety car. As now round spoon, he's not being overtook by Hamilton because he's not losing too much time, but that's very dangerous and they should pit him because that is not safe.
There we go. It's flying over and Hamilton's run over and Sainz is it's all over the track is that debris, and who knows, a couple of cars might have some punctures now.
Yeah, well, they might need to throw a safety car for that. And Leclerc locks up at the final chicane. And is Leclerc going to pit? No, he does not. That's interesting.
Well, now that the front wing that the actual end plate is off the front wing, it's no longer actually dangerous. And although he'll be slower, it's going to be very, very beneficial for Ferrari to keep Lewis Hamilton behind for the moment.
Absolutely. If they can keep him behind, then yeah, that's good. But he is going to be shockingly slow compared to his teammate. He's already 3.5 seconds off the lead, which is not a surprise considering his damage. But we are now on lap 3. It's Bottas leading from Vettel by about 1.4 seconds. And then it's Leclerc 3rd, Hamilton 4th, 5th is Sainz, 6th Norris, 7th is Albon, 8th is Pierre Gasly. Again, another great start by Lance Stroll. No investigation for the Leclerc-Verstappen contact. Of course, tomorrow, Monday, I'll be analysing that. Lance Stroll is in P9. Hülkenberg, 10th. What a start for Hülkenberg. 5 places on the first lap alone. That's great for him. Perez has gone from 17th to P11. And here we go. And yeah, that's very dangerous.
That is so dangerous.
That's a very, very hairy moment. And yeah, Hamilton, I'm sure on the radio is saying that was a close one. It was.
Well, we've seen certainly lesser and, smaller parts of debris cause a lot more damage as Leclerc is in the pit lane now for a new front wing. We've seen front wings, also smaller parts of debris, do a lot more damage than that, and that was extremely dangerous. So dangerous. The FIA, in my opinion, should have said, Ferrari, you got to come to the pit lane. I think they were just a little bit, they weren't very proactive there. Interesting.
Got a yellow flag in Sector 2. That might be marshals on track for clearing debris. We'll see in a moment if it's because of a car stop. No, I think that's because they were clearing debris up. So because of that pit stop, McLaren are 4th and 5th at the moment. Probably won't remain that way, but still, that's a great position for them to be in. Leclerc has dropped to the very back. So at least for Max Verstappen, who's now trying to fight his way through the field, at least he's ahead of Leclerc, who I'm sure he's screaming about on the radio. Max Verstappen. So yeah, McLaren up to P4 and P5. We're now lap 4 as Verstappen feigns a move up the inside of the hairpin on Daniel Kvyat.
And you were right. I certainly did hear some loud talking from Max. I'm not exactly sure what not entirely sure what he said, but here's a replay of the start. Incredible start by Valtteri Bottas, almost like it was at Silverstone back in the day when he was at Williams. And as you can see, just a bit of an incident there. Well, obviously more than a bit of an incident, but what a start that is by Bottas. And I must say, it was a great start by Bottas, but an absolutely horrendous start by both Ferraris. It's almost as if they didn't react to the lights. And here we go. We're going to have an onboard with Max Verstappen now. As you can see, the Ferraris are having quite an awful start. Verstappen trying to go around the outside, Leclerc into turn 1. Gets it done around the outside turn 1, but into turn 2. I think Verstappen gave him quite a lot of room there. Of course, it's very ambitious to go around the outside there, but it looks like Leclerc just sort of understeered and went straight into Verstappen, in my opinion, there. So, in all honesty, I think if there is to be anyone at fault, it certainly ain't Max Verstappen.
Yeah. And we just see again. Yeah, if anyone's to blame, it's Leclerc, because one, he understeered wide into Verstappen. Oh, bit of front wing knocked off Carlos Sainz there. It's Hamilton. Very lucky that wasn't a big crash. But Verstappen had enough of his car there to deserve space. And yeah, Sebastian Vettel just did not move at all. And Bottas almost hit the back of Vettel. He was that quick at the start, was Valtteri Bottas. As Vettel got away just about okay. Head of the carnage. Here is a replay of Max. No, there's Albon on lap 4. Oh! Contact of Norris. And that has broke, I think, a bit of a barge board on the Red Bull or McLaren. And Norris is pitted. Oh, what a shame for McLaren. And here we go. So Albon sends it. I think Norris should have seen him coming. He had enough of his car in there. But yeah, Albon has continued and is P5 at the moment. And Norris, and look at Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo's up to P11. And
of course, we've missed it all.
Yeah. Gasly's up to 6th. Gasly is 6th in the Toro Rosso. That is incredible. We are now, by the way, on lap 6 out of 53. I'm trying to update the order as much as I can. But it is Albon in P5. And
Wait a minute. Apparently, Vettel jumped the start. Apparently, he jumped the start and then stopped and went again. I'm going to rewind to just see if that did happen. So you're going to have to call the live commentary here for the moment.
Okay. Well, if he did jump the start, stop again, then he'll get a penalty, because it doesn't matter if you stop. If you jump the start, you've got to give a penalty. So, oh my, what a disaster for Ferrari. But the current order is P6 to P10 is Gasly, Stroll, Hulkenberg.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Vettel absolutely jumped the start. That's going to be a slam dunk penalty for Sebastian Vettel.
We haven't, though. Have we? I don't think we've seen, though, that the...
No, we've seen from the onboard, but we just missed it. He 100% jumped the start.
Okay, well, hopefully the stewards have picked up on that, because, or the sensors hopefully have delivered that information that he jumped the start. We'll have to see, or I'll have to see later on, because I didn't think he jumped the start, but obviously what you've seen, if he has. Anyway, top 10, I think I've got right now. So Ricciardo's I was going to say, Ricciardo's P11. Never mind that. He's P10. Ricciardo's in 10th. Renault are 8th and 10th. What a start for Renault. They've got some magical race pace. They're driving round people, or they're not even there. The Giovinazzi is now down to 11th place. Trying to make sure I can get this order finally correct. On now lap 7, by the way, out of 53. Magnussen is in 12th place. 13th is Roman Grosjean. By the way, interesting to note, Max Verstappen is not making progress, and I think that's because Max Verstappen has damage to his car. And yeah, understeering quite a bit there. Under investigation, Leclerc and Verstappen for the lap 1, turn 2 incident.
And in my honest opinion, they said no further action or no investigation was necessary. But obviously, they've seen the replays and seen that is quite clearly Charles Leclerc's fault. And I wouldn't be surprised if Leclerc gets a 5-second time penalty there because Verstappen left him plenty of room. And I don't think Leclerc even attempted to give Verstappen any room, in my opinion, as we have a Toro Rosso. Danny Kvyat here trying to make a move on Kimi Räikkönen, but he's just unable to do so. But he's looking for the good old switch back to try and overtake him down towards turn 1. As it now both cars open up the DRS. Danny Kvyat in the slipstream of the Alfa Romeo. He's gaining. Which way is he going to go? Kimi defends the inside line, but Kimi holds on for the time being. Kvyat not close enough. And Kimi holds on to P14. But yeah, I would not be surprised at all if Leclerc gets a penalty there.
Yeah, if someone's going to get a penalty, it'd have to be Charles Leclerc. But what an absolute disaster for Ferrari. A possible jump start and a car at the back of the grid. And look, that mirror, as that mirror come off, going to fly off? Or are they just showing it wobbling around? No, there you go. So, well, he's had lots fall off his car. And we're now on lap 8 out of 53. Now I have finally got the running order absolutely correct. On lap 8, it is Valtteri Bottas leading. From Sebastian Vettel second, Hamilton third, Carlos Sainz is fourth, Albon is fifth and closing. Sixth is Gasly, seventh Stroll, eighth Hulkenberg, ninth Perez, 10th Ricciardo. Hulkenberg, Perez and Ricciardo must have, I don't know, they've got jet fuel in their car or something because they've climbed a lot of positions. Hulkenberg's climbed 7, Perez has climbed about 8, and Ricciardo's done about 6. And then Giovinazzi is 11th. And then it's Magnussen, Grosjean, Raikkonen, Kvyat, Verstappen, Leclerc, Russell, Norris, and Kubica. As we now begin lap 9 out of 53. The thing I was going to say though, Nib, is we haven't seen an investigation started on a jump start. That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah. From the onboard footage of Sebastian Vettel's start, he quite clearly went forward and then stopped. As here we go, Leclerc up the inside of Verstappen, and he gets it done. I was just about to mention before you went through the grid that or the running order, that Leclerc was gaining on Verstappen quite massively. And there you go, up the inside turn 1. Verstappen certainly did defend that as hard as he possibly could, but fair at the same time. And now Leclerc is up into what? 16th? I couldn't see quite over the top of my computer there, but Leclerc up into 16th.
By the way, I think Max Verstappen has a problem because look, he's dropping back from Kvyat. I think Verstappen has suffered damage. Oh, Verstappen. And I think that's just him illustrating he wasn't happy and then trying to feign one up the inside. Verstappen, I think, with that defensive move, clearly illustrating he's not happy with the driving standards of Charles Leclerc. And I think, again, there you go. Sebastian Vettel under investigation. The false start, they've called it, but it's a jump start is what it is in normal terms. But yeah, I think Max Verstappen is going to retire from this race soon because he's not even catching a Toro Rosso. So clearly, he has some kind of damage to his rear suspension. As Albon not getting really anywhere near Sainz to have an overtake. So now on lap 10 out of 53. What a first 10 laps. As we've got great battles going on. One for P4 between Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon. Bottas, by the way, leading by 2.7 seconds. Mercedes have this race. And actually, they're going to get a 1-2, aren't they? If Vettel gets a penalty, and that's the Constructors right there. So Mercedes are heading towards a Constructors World Championship. Ferrari have gifted him it, as Leclerc is now attacking the back of Daniel Kvyat. And what makes it difficult at Suzuka is, again, narrow track. Even though it's not a street track, it's hard to overtake on what is a very narrow racetrack, even if you do have a much faster car, as Leclerc closes on Daniel through Degner 1 and into Degner 2.
Now, are we going to see a Kobayashi dive bomb here into the hairpin? This is what I want to see. Is he going to do it? No, he's too far back. Damn, I want to see at least a couple of Kobayashi dive bombs as Leclerc nearly spins out there as he's going very slowly through the hairpin. But is he going to be able to gain enough through up and around to Spoon? No, it doesn't look like he's used any of his energy recovery system. But now through Spoon, surely he's going to be looking to get this move done on the Toro Rosso as they come through the exit of Spoon. But Leclerc's line through there has actually compromised him quite a bit. And who knows? This Ferrari is a rocket ship, but I don't think he'll be anywhere near to get a move done by the chicane. But maybe down in towards turn one on the pitch straight, he can get that move done as Leclerc's weaving. I think there was something in the air there that he avoided. But here we go. Leclerc now gaining massively in the braking zone for that chicane. And on the exit, of course, where we've seen Kubica and Magnussen go into the wall, can Leclerc gain? But of course, it's very difficult to gain when Kvyat is also so close to Kimi Räikkönen in front, who are all being held up by the Haas train here at Japan. But it's funny as I was absolutely saying, "Oh, Renault are awful, Renault are qualifying." They're now 8th and 10th. Happy days.
Absolutely. And yeah, as you said, trained behind not just Magnussen, but Grosjean, 12th and 13th, the two Haases. And they are holding up Raikkonen, Kvyat, Leclerc, that battle for P12, and that's allowing the rest of the midfield to really pull a gap to Leclerc, Verstappen, drivers like that. And I'm telling you, Leclerc, I think he also has a bit of damage to his car. This is not going to be a comfortable ride through the field because this midfield pack is not that slow as Leclerc now gets a run down to, and Kvyat, I think, will let him go. Or will he? Yeah, he does. Leclerc up to 15th place. But it's not going to be easy to pass these cars because I think, again, Leclerc does have a bit of damage to his car. He is now up into 15th is Charles Leclerc. And Daniel Kvyat 16th. Not a great weekend for him. But Gasly's teammate, 10 places up in P6. Great for Toro Rosso. Yeah, in 16th. Then we're seeing a replay of Leclerc overtaking Daniel Kvyat. And now, Raikkonen has DRS. And because they both have the same power unit, it's going to be very difficult for Charles Leclerc to pass the Alfa in a straight line, especially Kimi Räikkönen, who were quite difficult to pass at times.
I think Leclerc will be okay getting past Kimi Räikkönen. Ferrari power unit certainly does perform well in the back of the Ferrari. Performs a little bit better than what it does, say, in the Alfa Romeo and the Haas cars. We're seeing a replay here of Valtteri Bottas. I assume we're going to see a lock-up here at the hairpin. Indeed, a little bit of a lock-up there for Valtteri Bottas. And you can see actually a flat spot on there, so that'll be causing some certainly unwanted vibrations there for Valtteri Bottas. As someone else is locked up there, I think who's in front of the, I think a lock-up there by Giovinazzi, it might have been. As
I think it was Magnussen.
Dirt. Magnussen, there you go. But yeah, lots of lockups at this track is certainly very easy to do. And of course, it's a completely different track to what they ran on Friday after, the track has been, basically just completely cleaned. As here we go, I think Leclerc might be having to look into the chicane here. He's gaining quite massively on Raikkonen down towards 130R. Is Leclerc going to be able to make a move at the chicane? No, Kimi defends the inside line here. But it's just going to be perfectly setting up the move down the pit straight for Charles Leclerc. He's almost pushing Kimi Räikkönen through the chicane, but loses the rear end as Charles Leclerc, and that drops him a little bit too far behind, I believe, on Kimi Räikkönen. And indeed, Räikkönen is now trying to get past Grosjean. The main straight camera is shaking all over the place there in the wind. But
absolutely,
as everyone holds station for the time being.
Indeed. We're now lap 13 out of 53. I was just going to say Bottas is really pulling away from Vettel. He's now 4.5 seconds clear of Vettel. Very good pace by Valtteri Bottas. Lewis is closing on Vettel. He's now 1.6 behind. And then Sainz is actually pulling away from Albon. And I think Carlos Sainz is looking very good for... You know what? They give Vettel a penalty soon. Don't be surprised if McLaren are in a podium position for quite a bit of time. Not sure they'll get it, but I will say, why are they not giving Vettel a penalty already? If you're saying it was pretty obvious, then I don't understand what the wait is. As
Yeah, I was,
Leclerc,
I was just about to make that point, actually, and here we go.
what?
No further action?
Well,
What?
well, hopefully we see a replay so I can see it as well. But I trust what you've said. And, Leclerc cutting through Raikkonen at 130R. Leclerc up to 14th place on now lap 14. But I want to see a replay, please, Mr. FOM Director, of Sebastian Vettel at the start. Because if he did jump the start, then stop again, I'm sorry, that's a penalty. Doesn't matter that he stopped. Because then if you allow that, then you're setting a precedent for drivers to start when they want, just to get closer to other cars, and then stop again. So
I am absolutely gobsmacked. How has Sebastian Vettel not got a how's he not got a penalty? He jumped the start.
well, again, I want to see this replay. I want to see. Right, here we go. Lights are on. That's a clear jump start. That's a clear jump start. How have they not given a penalty for that?
What?
That's so clear. Oh my, that is, and again, we did a podcast on it, and I'm going to say it again, the FIA are so crap at consistency and making decisions. That is one of the clearest jump starts. All we got to do is look at the lights and have a little glance at Vettel's car, and you can clearly see he goes, then he stops, and then once he stops, the lights have gone out. So, that is pathetic. That is absolutely pathetic. That's one of the worst decisions I've ever... That is worse than the Vettel-Hamilton incident in Canada. Way worse, because that's an opinion, that whole Vettel-Hamilton thing in Canada. That is... Literally, all you've got to do to decide whether it's a penalty or not is look to see if he moved before the lights. He clearly did, so give him a penalty. But
Chaz, they rely ultimately on the sensor, and I think what was happened there is Vettel was far enough behind as Max Verstappen coming in to retire. He has, Red Bull certainly at their two more home Grand Prix tracks. Obviously, Verstappen in his home Grand Prix in Belgium retired, and now he retires at Red Bull's second home Grand Prix. They have so many home Grand Prix because, of course, Silverstone is a home Grand Prix for everyone. Then, of course, they have Austria, and then, of course, they kind of have Japan now. So there hasn't been a good run for Max Verstappen in the last couple of races, but they rely on that sensor, and I think what's happened is Vettel hasn't gone forward far enough to actually activate the sensor that he's jumped the start. But come on!
That's rubbish.
It's a clear jump start.
If you look at the video, it's clear. Even if the sensor's not working, you can't, they've shown it. It's clear as Leclerc has passed Magnussen. That's such a clear jump start. They can't use the whole sensor thing. I know they use the sensors to detect if there's a jump start by someone they can't quite see on the grid. But we've had it on board. He clearly jumped the start, and he hasn't got a penalty for it. That is complete rubbish. As Albon is pitting in the Red Bull. Albon, where will he come out? Probably P11, maybe? I'm not sure. P10. No, P11. Very close to Charles Leclerc. As Hamilton is now within DRS of Sebastian Vettel. Mercedes, their race pace is so good. Bottas, 7 seconds clear of Vettel. That's almost second a lap.
And just before we see potentially some action here between Vettel and Hamilton, the reason why Lando Norris had to pit was because he had overheating brakes after the debris of Leclerc got stuck in his brake duct, and then he had damage also from the contact with Albon. So that is why Lando Norris had to pit.
Right. I thought I saw one of the McLarens in qualifying. I think I called it that one of their brakes was on fire. So I think that's probably who it was in qualifying. Of course, with the race being so soon, they don't really have time to fix any of that, as Sebastian Vettel is in the pits. So if Lewis Hamilton can bang out a great lap, and they're going to
They're two-stopping.
Why are they two-stopping? It's clearly slower around this track. Well,
Quite clearly, they think they don't have the tyre life as now Sainz goes ahead of Vettel. I think it's clear that Ferrari obviously don't have the tyre life to go far enough in this Grand Prix.
I can't. Ferrari, they're an absolute conundrum. I don't even understand what they're even doing at this race. Leclerc taking out a driver, jumping the start, putting him on a 2-stop when a 1-stop's clearly faster. Right. Here's a replay of Vettel locking up at the final chicane, but that's not why they put him on a 2-stop. I mean, yeah, his tyres are gone, but you can't. The 2-stop, and then locks up both tyres really hard in the entry to the pit lane. But you'll remember, Nib, back in 2013 when Mark Webber was put on a strategy where he had to pit an extra lap, and it clearly didn't work because pitting an extra time at Suzuka doesn't work. So why have they gone for that?
Well, I don't think it's going to ultimately matter too much as now we have Valtteri Bottas coming into the pits. I don't think it's actually going to ultimately matter too much. I think that Hamilton was going to get past Vettel eventually, and I think that the best really Vettel can do here is to get P3 as now Bottas pits and he goes on to the medium compounded tyre, as Paul DeResta would say. I'm always and forever going to call it the medium compounded tyre, as Bottas comes quite comfortably out ahead of Carlos Sainz. Now he can continue on his merry old way to what should be a race win for Valtteri Bottas.
By the way, I've noticed Daniel Ricciardo has passed Sergio Perez. So Ricciardo is up to a net, as Albon does the new fastest lap. Ricciardo's up to a net P9, I think. P8 officially. So it's currently Hamilton leading. Hamilton hasn't pitted yet. He probably will in a moment. Bottas is second. Sainz is third. McLaren. They'll be hoping McLaren that Sebastian Vettel has a problem so they can get a podium, because Leclerc is still quite far back. Carlos Sainz, as Magnussen has pitted as well. I think Vettel is about to pass Carlos Sainz. Gasly's P5, then it's Stroll, Hülkenberg, and there you go. Vettel up the inside. This is where he collided, of course, with Max Verstappen famously. This time, it's all fine. But yeah, Ferrari heading for third. And, well, third and fifth, I don't know. But they're not heading for a good result, that's for sure. Ferrari have gone full Ferrari today. Yeah, Hülkenberg is P7. Ricciardo is P8. And then it's Perez 9th. And Alex Albon has... he did come out, I think, in P11. But he's got back up to P10. Charles Leclerc. Go on, Nib.
Yeah, isn't it interesting that the Renaults, as we got Leclerc, just absolutely blasting past Antonio Giovinazzi. I think that's the only way to describe it. Down into turn one as he moves up into P11 now. It's amazing, isn't it? The Renaults are what, 7th? Is it 7th and 8th? Is that Lance Stroll in the pit lane?
Gasly as well.
Yes, it is. Gasly as well, and also an Alfa Romeo there. I can't quite see who it was. It's Antonio Giovinazzi, and that's Lando Norris coming out ahead of Kvyat there. But isn't it amazing? Well, now, of course, Hülkenberg and Ricciardo are 4th, 5th and 6th. Obviously not a net 5th and 6th, but isn't it amazing that we have not seen a single one of their overtakes, and we'll see it on Tuesday? Fantastic job.
Yeah, and that's just a replay there of Gasly's pit stop. Hard tyres for someone. I think Raikkonen, that's who pitted. As seen a replay for some reason, slow-mo of Toro Rosso pulling out the pits. I don't understand what we're supposed to be looking at. But, Leclerc and Verstappen will be investigated after the race. Listen, what are the stewards doing today? I don't even understand what their decision-making process is today. Anyway, Hülkenberg, by the way, we're on lap 20 out of 53. Hamilton is leading but has not pitted yet. from Bottas, who has pitted, and Valtteri is heading towards a race victory. And Mercedes, as Valtteri does a new lap record of 132.1. That's an interesting graphic, look. Tyre condition. That's a good new graphic. So the left-hand side is nearing the end of its life, by the looks of it. But at the moment, Mercedes are heading towards the constructors because they need a 1-2 finish, and Vettel has to pit again. So unless a safety car comes out, they're doomed. And Albon passes Perez on the way to 130R as Hülkenberg, and I think maybe Perez as well pitted. Yeah, Perez pitted as well. So Ricciardo is up to 5th. And Albon is 6th. If McLaren keep to a 2-stop with Sainz, I think they're in for a great result because Albon and Leclerc probably going to do 2. I think Leclerc definitely is doing a 2-stop. Albon maybe could do a 1, but most likely a 2, I'd have to say. But at the moment, Hamilton from Bottas, Vettel, Sainz, Ricciardo, Albon, and then Charles Leclerc is in 7th place. Kvyat's up to 8th. Kvyat, though, I think started on medium tyres. That's why Kvyat is still out on the track. And here we go. That's Albon on the outside of Ricciardo. And this is, well, an inevitable overtake. Afraid. As Albon, look at that, struggling to get the car turned in. That's the wind effect. And here we go. Albon proves his pass. So Albon up to P5 and has to now catch a 13-second gap to Sainz. If Albon can catch Sainz and pass him, and he is on a 2-stop, then Albon is looking good for P4. But anyway, Kvyat, I know Kvyat's on soft tyres. That's good. Good to still be on track. Norris is P9. And then P10, Pierre Gasly. The only people who haven't pitted in the top 10 is Hamilton, Ricciardo, Sainz, and Kvyat, I believe. Then, for some reason looking at Williams there. Here comes Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, very quick behind. What tyres is Valtteri on? Set of mediums, isn't it?
Yeah, he's on the medium tyres.
Right. I'm going to say, hope Valtteri's not on a 2-stop. And here comes Hamilton into the pits, and he will come out in 3rd, but will be so much quicker than Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari. It won't be a contest, even if the Ferrari has the straight line speed. Comes in Hamilton, medium tyres on. Not the quickest stop, but did the job, as Vettel already into turn 2 and 3, and Hamilton will come out ahead of Sainz, so that's worked out for them. And Hamilton now needs to push as hard as possible to close the gap to Vettel to prevent any comeback from Vettel on the 2-stop. But anyway, Stroll is in P11 at the moment. Nico Hülkenberg is in 12th position. 13th is Sergio Perez. Russell is 14th, but Russell has not pitted yet in Williams. That's why he's 14th, but Russell has been quite quick this weekend for a driver that's never raced here before. Russell in 14th. And then Grosjean is in 15th position. 16th is Giovinazzi. 17th, Raikkonen. Alfa, though, have both pitted. That's why they're so far down compared to other drivers who have not pitted. And then it's Raikkonen in 17th. 18th is Magnussen. 19th, Kubica. And your only retirement so far is Max Verstappen after first lap contact with Charles Leclerc. And we're currently, who are we looking at? Valtteri Bottas on board in the lead of the Japanese Grand Prix. And Valtteri at the moment is actually maintaining speed with Vettel, if not pulling away. Valtteri leads by 11.5 seconds. So Vettel is nowhere near Bottas when it comes to any danger for the 2-stop. And Lewis Hamilton now massively closing in, I believe, on Sebastian Vettel. And the only close battle on track right now that is really for an absolute position and is not, someone who hasn't pitted versus someone who has. Gasly and Stroll are separated by about 0.8 of a second over P10, but that's a net P6 rather. Look out for that. Yep, Verstappen. 20. So finally the order has settled down for me to do the order. It's now lap 23 out of 33 out of 53. 30 laps to go in a race that has been quite eventful, and I think we have a lot more to come because the midfield, especially at the end, once all the tyres start degrading and they're on different tyres, that's when it's really going to start getting quite interesting. Quickly, just picture slideshow. There you go. Need to make a quick change to the running order because Romain Grosjean, who by the way is on hard tyres, the Haas understanding of their tyre issues have gone onto the hard tyres, as Grosjean is in 14th place. Haas dropping Russell to 15th. At the moment, Nib, looks very comfortable for Mercedes, doesn't it?
Very, very comfortable. And of course, Hamilton does have quite a big gap to catch up to Sebastian Vettel. But of course, it won't matter because Vettel is on the 2 stop. So it's going to be very comfortable for the Mercedes. And there you go. You can see that Hamilton has actually lost the mirror as well. And I assume that is from when the front wing actually hit his mirror, as Lando Norris is now defending from the Toro Rosso Pierre Gasly, and Gasly gets the move done into turn 1 there. Nothing Lando could have done about that, that's for sure, as now he drops down to P10, and sadly that debris and contact with Albon has certainly ruined his race because he should be up there around about where his teammate is. So very unfortunate event. Unfortunate afternoon for Lando Norris there, but great move by Gasly.
Yeah, Gasly driving very well this weekend, as Russell has just lost about 3 positions in 1 lap. So I think Russell has really bad tyre wear now. So Giovinazzi and Raikkonen, the 2 Alphas, up to 15th and 16th. Striking distance for Hamilton in 13 laps, according to FOM. I think that might be a bit sooner, though, because Vettel's tyres will keep going off. And look at that, Hamilton gaining about half a second on the exit of a chicane. And now he's only 8.9 behind Vettel when it was about 10.5 a lap and a half ago. We're now on lap 25 out of 53. Get Giovinazzi up to 15th. Then Kimi Raikkonen, 16th place. 17th is K-Mag, I believe. Then 18th is Russell. So Williams now at the back, and they'll finish at the back as this is Stroll all over the back of Norris. He's got to pass him now, Stroll, because Hulkenberg's all over the back of him. So here we go. Stroll, DRS. Surely he can overtake. Norris defends. Will Stroll go on the outside? Yes, he does. Very good overtake by Lance Stroll on Lando Norris. So I'll update that in a moment. Stroll looking good here for a good points finish. Maybe P8, P9, who knows. Has now got a bit of a train behind Norris. And yeah, as you said, Neil, because of that early pit stop, Lando is effectively now on a 2 stop because he is, well, falling back a lot because of his older tyres at the moment. And is not really in a good fight at the moment. As, yeah, we've got a train right behind Norris, who has now dropped down to P11. There you go.
Hulkenberg's got to run on him down towards Spoon. He's not going to be able to quite get the move done, or is he? He goes up the inside to Nico Hulkenberg. Very nice move up the inside of Spoon. We didn't have exactly the best camera angle, but now poor Lando Norris is just falling back through the field like he's a Haas, as now he has Sergio Perez going to go up the inside through Spoon, is he? No, not Spoon, 130R, of course. But no, not quite. He has to actually back out of it. But I think it's only a matter of time before he does get past Lando Norris. Well, he's had an absolute stinker of a Japanese Grand Prix as we've got Charles Leclerc coming into the pit and also perfectly timed Lando Norris coming in the pits as well. And Leclerc goes on to the soft compounded tyre.
Yeah, clearly on a two-stop as Leclerc comes out in 12th. Norris is pitted as well, as we saw on Perez's onboard camera. So, lap 26 out of 53 as Norris driving down the field. Bottas leading. I forgot to change that. I'll quickly do it. Valtteri Bottas leading. Sorry if the order's a bit mucked around, but pit stops happen. It's difficult to get it all in order correctly when it's all going off. Here's a replay of Hulkenberg on Norris. And yeah, good move. Vital move. So he doesn't get held up. And now Hulkenberg all over the back of Daniel Kvyat. As Albon passed Sainz, I think, because Sainz is pitted. Hulkenberg, nope, not going to go around the outside into Spoon. And now I think Sainz has been Sainz has been overtook, and now Sainz is pitted.
I wonder if another McLaren has been dive bombed at the chicane.
Possibly, because that happened very suddenly, I have to say. And here comes Hulkenberg. Will he dive down the inside? Oh, he's kind of feigning it. That's not what you want to see. That's going to get your front wing took off Nico. And he should get a good run.
Oh, very, very good run. And that's absolutely going to be a no contest there between Kvyat and Hulkenberg. But the Racing Point's also interested here. An easy kind of slipstream up the inside of Danny Kvyat. Very well done there by Sergio Perez to also capitalise on Hulkenberg's move. I thought for a moment he was going to try go down the inside of Hulkenberg as well. But very well done there by Sergio Perez following Hulkenberg through. But it must be said, Daniel Ricciardo has not pitted yet, and he's still in 5th place.
Yeah, and his pace is quite good. And if he can put on the soft tyres later on, which he will, he's in the fight for a top 6 or 7 finish. And here's a replay of Perez. And yeah, very good move. Brave. Down the inside of the Toro Rosso, Daniel Kvyat. Just trying to complete the top 10. The Gasly.
So we've got Leclerc now putting pressure on Kvyat, and now he goes up the inside a lot more comfortably than the others. As of course, he's on the soft compounded tyre, but I don't think that tyre will go to the end, if I'm perfectly honest. Ferrari have struggled with their tyres so much, and he just went over about 20 laps on the on the medium compounded tyre. So I wouldn't be surprised if actually Leclerc has to pit again.
Well, that would be quite disappointing for Ferrari to have that bad a tyre wear to do a 3-stop with Leclerc when they're doing a 1-stop up top with Bottas and Hamilton. Hamilton is slowly catching Vettel. Vettel, though, has increased his pace and is now catching slowly. Now slowly catching Valtteri Bottas as Daniel Kvyat is now pitted.
And also Lando Norris pitted just before, and he's now down in P17. And now maybe Norris can extract revenge on Kvyat. And there you go, he's jumped. Kvyat has Lando Norris. As it actually looks like the Racing Points race pace is actually very good at this stage of the race. It looks like looks like Perez is actually quite a bit, or could be a little bit quicker than Hulkenberg here. But one thing's for sure is the car behind them, Charles Leclerc, is certainly a lot faster than them. And he is gaining quite rapidly there as we've got team radio from Hamilton, which of course we can't hear, but the gap now between him and Vettel is 6.5 seconds, and it really is going to be just a matter of time before he closes up to the back of Sebastian Vettel and it overtakes him.
Absolutely. As, Hamilton continuing to close in on lap 29 at 53. A couple laps ago was the midway point of the race. So as you said, Nib, with Leclerc, he's got half the race to do on the softest compound. That's a bit tough. And I've noticed now how they're measuring the tyre condition. So as the percentage goes down, that's how the tyre wear gets worse. So Lewis, his left hand side of his tyres before he pitted were on about 20%. Sebastian Vettel's left hand side of the car on about 70/60. Bottas's tyres in a lot better condition. And even though Vettel has closed the gap a bit, down to about 11 seconds, as Sebastian has terminal understeer at the first part of the chicane, Valtteri, I think, is cruising out front. Valtteri can go a lot faster, for sure. And by the way, I think we should really praise Valtteri's drive here. Great start, great qualifying, and he has completely dominated the race, Mika Häkkinen style. Just like Häkkinen did, of course, here in 98 and 99 when Häkkinen won the World Championship in those seasons. Very similar drive. Got a great start and has left the field in the dust. Great drive. Very similar to Melbourne. Valtteri Bottas.
And here we go. Leclerc closing up to Sergio Perez. And I don't think he'll be able to quite get a move done into the chicane, but perhaps down the main straight, we might see Perez actually get through on Hulkenberg, and then also Leclerc get past Hulkenberg as well, like we seen a couple laps ago with was it with Danny Kvyat and the Hulkenberg and Perez. As you can see, under braking, so much more performances. Daniel Ricciardo now pits. Will be interesting to see exactly where he comes out. But Leclerc here with a pretty solid exit on Sergio Perez, but I don't think he'll be close enough, actually, as Perez certainly isn't the slowest car in a straight line. But you can see how much more grip Leclerc has. It's quite a good visualization of how much quicker these top teams are than the midfield teams through those corners. But Hulkenberg is quite clearly struggling here. And I think it's just a matter of time before both Perez and Leclerc get past him here, as now Hamilton has closed the gap to 4.5 seconds. So Vettel's tyres are absolutely falling off the cliff once again. And he's going to go onto a set of the medium tyres to the end of the race. But Ricciardo's come out in P11, 11 seconds behind this squabble here. And I think we'll see Ricciardo close up quite quickly to Hulkenberg at least. As Leclerc is gaining so massively on Perez, just absolutely out of nowhere. It didn't even look like he was going to overtake anywhere near into there, but he absolutely blast past Charles Leclerc, and now Nico Hulkenberg is under threat from Charles Leclerc, and I'm sure down the pitch straight that he will actually get the job done. But just shows you how good that Ferrari engine is. Right there is now Leclerc closing up on Hulkenberg out of the chicane. Of course, on these fresher tyres, he's going to have a much better exit. Here's Charles Leclerc, but I think he's certainly a little bit too far away. Although, look at the absolute rocket ship that is coming towards Nico Hulkenberg. Oh my goodness. As Hulkenberg actually runs a little bit wide through turn 1 and 2, but he just about holds on. Boy, oh boy, you can see how fast that Ferrari is. That's absolutely ridiculous. I think it was 30-kilometer-an-hour difference on a pitch straight that is very, very short. And of course, matter of time here before Hulkenberg is overtaken by Charles Leclerc. As Vettel is in the pits, and now Hamilton is up in second place.
And that is the Constructors' World Championship for Mercedes again. Mercedes get a 1-2. Then they will win the Constructors, and I don't see Sebastian Vettel unless he puts in a mental drive from P3 now. I don't see how Vettel can beat Hamilton. He is about 15 seconds behind, I think, of Lewis Hamilton. Pretty sure he is, once the timing sorts himself out. With 21 laps to go, so unless he gains a second a lap, it'll be difficult. And
that's absurd. That is absolutely absurd. Leclerc just drives past Hulkenberg like he's not even there.
Yeah, Nico, a bit of a mobile chicane, to be honest. Yeah, the Ferrari in a straight line, as we know. It is so incredibly quick, as we're now seeing Hamilton in P2. as my throat starts to die after the third video today. As there's P8, and you know what, Nib, I'll let you take over for a bit.
Yep, I think that's a good idea. I've noticed that you've going a little bit earlier, so I've been trying to take over the main part of the commentary, and I'm more than happy to do so here. But as of course we've seen Leclerc getting past Hulkenberg up into P8, but now Bottas is let through by Kevin Magnussen into turn 1. Oh, that's not Bottas, that is Hamilton, I believe. Yes, indeed, that is Hamilton. I've done a Crofty. I'm sorry, I'm not immune to Crofty disease here, but Ricciardo is certainly closed the gap a little bit to Perez. The gap is now 9.2 seconds to Perez, as Perez himself will be looking to get past Nico Hulkenberg now, and also Charles Leclerc on Lance Stroll, but for whatever reason, we're watching Hamilton drive around really, really meaninglessly. Let's get on board to see Charles Leclerc just absolutely drive past Lance Stroll. That would be fantastic, but Hamilton's certainly looking very comfortable in this race, and he certainly won't be under any threat from Sebastian Vettel for this race. But Hamilton, of course, has closed that gap to Bottas since he did pit, as you'd expect. He's on the fresher compound, and of course, Mercedes will clinch the Constructors' Championship if the results stay like this. But Leclerc now closing on Stroll down the inside of turn 1 in a very comfortable but good move there by Charles Leclerc. And now he'll be setting his sights on Pierre Gasly, who is 1.5 seconds up the road. And then he can set his sights on Carlos Sainz, who's a little bit further up the road than Pierre Gasly. 9 seconds between Gasly and Sainz, as it looks like Lando Norris is now getting a little bit close to Kimi Räikkönen. Of course, Norris did pit about 10 or so laps ago. I can't actually remember when it was, but Norris did pit quite recently, as now we have an onboard here of Charles Leclerc on Pierre Gasly. And, I think he might be a little bit too far back to try and overtake in towards Spoon here, although he certainly is gaining. I think on the run down to 130R, Leclerc might have an opportunity to overtake Pierre Gasly here for P6 in this Grand Prix. And here we go. He's tucked up right behind Pierre Gasly. I don't think he'll get the move done before 130R, but potentially into the chicane, as Leclerc is gaining massively on Gasly. Is he going to chuck it up the inside? No, he feints, just drives down the middle of the track, and Gasly survives. Well, certainly at least for another 2 corners, as Leclerc is about to absolutely power past him on the main straight, as Leclerc opens up the DRS, although he actually might not power past him. Leclerc actually stays behind for the time being, as you can see how much more aggressive Leclerc is there through turn 1, and he actually hits Gasly. He tries to go around the outside through the S's. You can see how much quicker the Ferrari is than the Toro Rosso at this stage of the race, as Bottas has actually extended that lead to Hamilton a little bit over the last lap or so to 14.5 seconds. So it shows that Valtteri still does have plenty of pace in that car, as Lando Norris has just overtaken Kimi Räikkönen for P14 here, as also Sergio Perez is stuck behind Nico Hulkenberg for the time being, and Ricciardo is closing massively on those two. The gap is now 6 seconds to between Perez and Ricciardo, as now Leclerc on the run down to Spoon. He's gaining massively. Is he going to be able to get down the inside into Spoon? Yes, he is, but Gasly defends, and Gasly just about gives him the space. I thought there was going to be contact there, and credit to Pierre Gasly for honestly moving out the way there, because I think otherwise there would have been some contact. Now we have Alexander Albon going onto the soft compound tyre, and that was a rapid pit stop there by Red Bull. 2.5 seconds, and here we go, a replay of Charles Leclerc up the inside of Pierre Gasly. He certainly wasn't his most comfortable overtake of this race, but he got the job done nonetheless. And Leclerc up into P6 past Pierre Gasly.
Right. I think I can come back now. Thank you very much for doing that. My throat's still playing up, but thank you for doing that. I was just about to say, Albon, he's got that much pace, Albon. He pulled a pit stop on Sainz. So, very, very nice there for Alex Albon. as Robert Kubica is in the pits, as Lewis Hamilton is about to lap an Alfa Romeo of probably, I think it's Kimi Raikkonen.
Giovinazzi.
It's Giovinazzi. Mercedes very quick at the front. Vettel is 16.5 behind Hamilton, I believe. Yeah. And not really gaining. So, yeah, Ferrari are not going to beat Mercedes in this race. Completely fallen apart for them. So, it's currently on lap 36 out of 53. It's Bottas leading Hamilton, Vettel, Albon, Sainz, Leclerc, Gasly, Stroll, Hulkenberg, Perez, Ricciardo, Grosjean, Giovinazzi, Norris, and then it's actually Kvyat in 15th. Alfa Romeo, I have to say, they've got no pace in this race. Very similar to Russia, they've just got no speed in the latter part of this race. And Magnussen is down 17th and also has no pace. And Russell is actually catching him. Yeah. Tyre troubles have not gone away, clearly. So that is right now on your screen the order, and Mercedes getting ready for another pit stop. I think that this is probably just to cover off, surely just to cover off Ferrari, as Valtteri now comes into the pits. Hamilton stays out, then surely Lewis will let Valtteri through, because Valtteri will catch Lewis so quickly after this pit stop. So here comes Valtteri Bottas into the pit lane on lap 37 out of 53. 16 to go. Good enough stint, 16 laps on the soft compound. Yeah, Valtteri pits, puts on the soft tyres, as is an overtake actually into turn 1. I think we just caught the end of. Haven't seen it. But yeah, Bottas is in second place. And I think what they're doing is splitting the strategy. Surely, because if they want the constructors, they just got to keep Lewis Hamilton out and it'll work out just fine. Because Hamilton is not losing any time to Vettel at the moment.
Well, yeah, Bottas's pace is going to be so superior compared to Hamilton in the coming laps that they will probably just let Bottas straight past Lewis Hamilton. But a little bit un-Mercedes-like here to do this. We haven't seen them do this sort of thing, pit the leader like this for a second pit stop in quite some time. Of course, they do run split strategies, certainly when there are two-stop races quite often. We did see that a lot, especially when Nico Rosberg and Hamilton were teammates, of course. But interesting to see Mercedes do that. They don't like to often do a second pit stop if they don't have to, but obviously Valtteri was saying, let's give me some fresh rubber, and he actually was starting to lose some time to Hamilton. So a little pit stop there by Bottas, and of course still ahead of Sebastian Vettel, who we're watching on board here. I'm not entirely sure why, because, well, I'm still in absolute amazement that he hasn't got a penalty for jumping the start, because Sebastian Vettel jumped the start, but apparently he didn't. If you're the FIA, as now we're starting to see a little bit of a train fall behind Pierre Gasly here, in perfect timing, as we're now on board with these lot, as Sergio Perez is still stuck behind Nico Hulkenberg, but Lance Stroll really is the key here. If he can get past Gasly, then Gasly is just going to fall back and back, as Daniel Ricciardo is now 3 seconds behind these lot. He certainly is gaining, is the Australian, as I'm sure Lewis Hamilton is, he's on the team radio. I'm not too sure why. Or what? Well, I suppose he can be on the team radio if he wants to be, can't he? But not too sure what he's saying is what I meant to say. And of course, it is lap 38 of 53. And I think it's just a little bit of time before everything heats up here.
Absolutely. Also, just to say, Kimi Raikkonen has just come into the pits. That's why Raikkonen is now 17th. Russell is only a second and a half behind him. But what's great about this battle from Gasly to Ricciardo is this is all for net position. This is not one driver who hasn't pitted yet. This is all absolutely for position. So you can expect it to all go off in the final 15 laps of the 2019 Japanese Grand Prix. Just to say, before we get to more action in this race, don't forget to subscribe, guys, for more content like this. Bottom right of the screen. or go to my homepage and do it there and hit the notifications bell. Sebastian Vettel is the new fastest lap, and Lando Norris goes up to 13th. We do watch along as referee practice, qualifying, and race for every race weekend, and we will do for the final 4 races of 2019, even if qualifying the race is held at the same time. So don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Again, bottom right of the screen, or go to the homepage and do it there. And don't forget to smash a like button if you want to see this content continue. Norris has just passed Giovinazzi. Again, as I've said, Alfa have gone nowhere in this race. And, well, there's say 3 different races. You've got the race from Grosjean down to Raikkonen, a race from Gasly to Ricciardo, and then a race from about Albon to Leclerc, and then the top 3. But interesting though, Nib, Valtteri is not gaining on Hamilton.
Yeah, that is interesting. I think it shows that the medium compounded tyre is certainly the best race tyre to be on at the moment. There's no one that looks like in this battle is going to overtake, as Hulkenberg can't get past Stroll, but it must be said, here we go. We've got a replay of an overtake around the outside of it was Kimi Raikkonen, just about keeps the car on track. So there's Antonio Giovinazzi there. I'm sure in the meantime we've seen Kvyat get past Giovinazzi, and indeed we have. Now Kvyat is past Giovinazzi as well. But just a quick little note. Oh no, I was just about to say Perez has ducked out of the DRS of Nico Hulkenberg, and then boom, there he is right within DRS, as Ricciardo now is about to get in within Sergio Perez's DRS, and it's going to be interesting to see what Ricciardo can do on the, I believe he's on the soft compounded tyre, towards the end of this race.
Absolutely. If Ricciardo can pull off his famous dive bombs, Ricciardo, I think, is probably in for 7th or 8th place. Just got to make sure he gets the overtakes done when it matters most, as we've got 13 laps to go. It's lap 40 out of 53, and the order is Hamilton, Bottas, Vettel, Albon, Sainz, Leclerc, Gasly, Stroll, Hulkenberg, Perez. By the way, again, got to shout out Carlos Sainz, because he's maintaining P5. He's not lapping that much slower, if at all, on Albon, and Leclerc's not gaining that much on Sainz. So Carlos Sainz, again, he has been one of the best drivers this season, and this drive is just incredible. And here's a replay of Leclerc. He's been doing that all weekend, as Charles Leclerc, bumping very hard that front wing on the ground through Degner 1. I think it's just his line through the corner, turning in very early to the corner. As we're now seeing Lewis Hamilton leading the race. I believe I've got that correct on the running order. Yes, I have. Yeah, Lewis Hamilton leading as
Norris has just got past Grosjean for P12.
Norris, by the way, for any McLaren fans out there, is on the hard compound tyre, so Norris making good progress on that tyre, but Norris is a pit stop behind Ricciardo, so Lando will not finish in the points unless there's a safety car very, very soon. But yeah, again, look at Sainz. He's pulling away from Leclerc. Great drive, and if he does get P5, another great result for Carlos Sainz. Really is. And you have to say Albon has also drove very well today, even though a bit of contact. I didn't think he was that much at fault for it. And here we go. Norris on Grosjean, and basically the same as the Norris-Giovinazzi overtake. And that McLaren car is so quick right now in Formula 1. Here's a replay of Leclerc at the final chicane, locking the inside front, and presumably going a bit wider than you would want to at the final. Okay, go on.
And what a shock! Leclerc went onto the soft compounded tyre, and now his tyres are absolutely wearing out to the point where he's slower than a McLaren. So, yep, this 2-stop, well, what will be an actual 3-stop if he does pit again for Leclerc, just certainly hasn't worked out for Ferrari. As Bottas is still 8.5 seconds, well, now 8.2 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton, as I think he is now starting to close the gap a little bit more to Lewis Hamilton. Perhaps he's been told to get a move on. As somehow we've missed Daniel Ricciardo get past Sergio Perez, as he now is up in the P10, and I assume that Hulkenberg is going to be told to let Ricciardo through. As Ricciardo's on different strategy, and here we go, Ricciardo with DRS.
Ooh.
Everyone's Perez doing a little bit of a wiggle there. He's just going, which way am I going to go? And Ricciardo goes cleanly around the outside, nearly goes onto the grass there, actually, down into turn one. But very nice move there by Daniel Ricciardo on Sergio Perez. And now he'll be looking to get past his teammate, Nico Hulkenberg.
Here we go.
Who should let him through, in all honesty. But here we go. Hamilton now coming up to this battle in the midfield. And this is going to be quite tasty, isn't it? As Bottas is now 7.5 seconds, so it's quite clear either Hamilton's slowed down his pace or Bottas is absolutely about to set an absolute storming lap time. No, Hamilton's going into the pit lane, and you know what? He's going to come out behind Sebastian Vettel, I believe here.
Well,
or is he?
I was about to say Sebastian is not that far when it comes to. Oh, Perez is in the pits. He has a pit stop gap behind, so we can. Vettel is around about the pit stop gap you need. No, Vettel's ahead, as I just say that, but he's only just come out about 3 or 4 seconds ahead. Hamilton has a lot of traffic. Well, they want to win the Constructors, but obviously they want to win it in style, I guess. As Hamilton comes out 5.4 behind Vettel. I will say, though, I think Valtteri does deserve to win the race, so even if they let Lewis stay out, I think if Valtteri cruised up behind, I think they should let Valtteri win. He has clearly been the better driver today, in qualifying, of course, and the race, and fully deserves his 3rd win 2019, and this might prolong the World Championship coronation for Lewis, maybe to the US Grand Prix, if Valtteri can keep this form up going into Mexico. Hamilton has come out in 3rd place, and hopefully we can cut to Ricciardo, because he's a man to look at the moment. I know Hamilton will catch Vettel very quickly, but Ricciardo is going to catch Hulkenberg.
But as I was mentioning before, very unlike Mercedes sort of strategy, their car behind another car that isn't theirs. I'm a bit confused by this Mercedes strategy. Of course, they should catch up to the back of Sebastian Vettel, but of course we know the Ferrari isn't exactly the easiest car to overtake. As now Ricciardo is closing up to his teammate Hulkenberg, but of course we're not seeing, because we're seeing this. Seeing absolutely nothing really. We're just seeing Hamilton drive around instead of actually close racing. As I'm sure I think the main reason why we see this is because the commentators just want to waffle on about nothing. So of course we're missing out on some action here between Stroll, Gasly, Hulkenberg, and Ricciardo.
Absolutely. I can understand why they're watching this, because Hamilton is going to home in on Vettel very quickly, but right now the fight is Hulkenberg, Stroll, Ricciardo. We're not seeing it, unfortunately. But we will on Tuesday. As Lewis Hamilton comes through the hairpin, he's done a fastest first sector of 32.4. That's very quick for a first sector at this point of the race. Lap 44 out of 53. About 9 laps to go. Look at Lewis. He's already closed a second on this lap so far. So, to be honest, I can understand why they're looking at this, because he really is going to be on Vettel's gearbox very quickly, especially if Lewis can get a bit of DRS from this, about to say Force India Racing Point. I think Sergio Perez. And
as Ricciardo is about to overtake his teammate, and there we go with watching that.
Yeah, we were watching as Perez. Now, let's throw it. I know it's frustrating, but at least it's consistent. They won't show. At least we can expect them not to show it. As Hamilton took a lot out of Vettel that lap. That's about 1.5 seconds that lap. So Ricciardo's up to 9th. Can Daniel get P8? Most likely he will. He's got about another 8 laps to go. He's only 0.4 of a second behind. So Ricardo is E9. Here we go. Hulkenberg locks up at the final chicane, and Hulkenberg presumably gets a really bad exit, yeah. And then Ricardo just cruises on the side. Assuming. If ever.
Interesting choice to show Hulkenberg's on here. There we go, Ricardo up the inside eventually. Here we go. This is the camera angle that we probably should have seen.
And yeah, I think Hulkenberg let him through because, yeah, Hulkenberg's not going to overtake Stroll.
Yeah, as now Ricardo is a 10th behind Stroll, so I assume that we might see some position swapping, and we're looking at Cyril Abiteboul on a pit wall whilst the overtake happening on the track. I absolutely love FLM. And then, of course, who do we switch to? Sebastian Vettel. Fantastic. As Lewis Hamilton sets, well, it was a new lap record. There we go, 131. Well, he's even gone quicker than that, a 130.9. Hamilton is absolutely on fire on those fresh set of soft tyres. And yeah, now it's time to show this action. But we missed 2 actual live overtakes on track, and we have to see seemingly every single overtake that happens in the midfield via replay. It's just ridiculous. Show the live action instead of having to watch everything on a replay when we already know what's happened. Come on. Like, seriously. Here we go. Ricardo up the inside at the final chicane. No, actually, Stroll manages to hold on, but Ricardo is going to get a much better exit than Stroll, as Stroll is wobbling all over the track, and was very, very lucky not to lose the car there and go into the wall, say like Robert Kubica or Kevin Magnussen did in qualifying earlier. But Ricardo up into P8, and now he's going to set his sights on Pierre Gasly for P7 in this race.
Well,
which we probably won't see live.
Well, at least now we're going to see a battle that probably we should see more so than Ricardo and Gasly, because I think Ricardo will cruise past Gasly. But anyway, shocking by FOM not to show any of that. As Hamilton now should be... No, he's not. I was going to say he's within DRS, but he's not. As now comes on the pit straight. Does he have DRS? No, he does not. As Raikkonen passes Kevin Magnussen. And Hamilton, I think, will, if he can overtake, it'll be in 2 or 3 laps' time, because he'll need to find, where can I overtake? But if he gets a look at Vettel in a braking zone, it will be game over. Because those soft tyres are a lot better at this point of the Grand Prix than those mediums, which, yeah, they're a good tyre, but they've done about 15 laps so far. As they now come to the end of the first sector. Degner 1, Degner 2. Hamilton nowhere near close enough to go for an overtake. But he will get, if he can do a bit of a switch back through that corner to get a better exit, he will get a good exit on Vettel. But here you go. Can Hamilton overcome the extra power Ferrari have to still get the overtake done? If he can get, again, near him in a braking zone to force him offline, get past. As Leclerc pits, he has a pit stop gap, so he can come out fine. Then Hamilton will cruise past. As now the run to 130R. Surely they've turned it up to maximum, because if they want this constructors, they got to really fight for it. As Leclerc comes out the pits, and here we go. Hamilton only half a second behind, and if he can get a good exit, he'll get past. Surely. Yeah, he's got a good exit, but can he get past? DRS wide open as Hulkenberg has passed Stroll. Gets DRS and Vettel. Is he going to force Vettel to defend? Oh, he had a look, but Sebastian has closed the door, kind of. And Lewis goes a bit too wide there. He had a bit too much of a look, but if he was a couple tenths closer, that's an overtake. I think that is absolutely done. As Daniel Kvyat has passed Lando Norris. So Daniel Kvyat flying in the Toro Rosso as, yep, Leclerc is pitted. Leclerc's going to do a fastest lap attempt, I believe, as Hulkenberg up into 9th position. Ahead of Stroll. So Stroll sadly falling back. I don't know why. Perez is actually closing on him very quickly. The Stroll might not even get points here. Stroll down to P10. And then let me update Kvyat ahead of Norris as Hamilton is closing on the exit of Degner 2, but he's not quite close enough. Now Sebastian gets a good, nice, clean exit and pulls out in power zone. And here we go then. Down to final chicane, and yet Hamilton not as close, and Charles Leclerc has actually been lapped. That's how quick Valtteri's been going today. And Ricciardo has passed Gasly. We just caught the end of it. Ricciardo on the pit straight then has passed Gasly, and surely Daniel Ricciardo is driver of the day. 16th to 7th. And it's not like he's had a safety car to help him either.
Well, I mean, how can the people vote for him when we haven't seen any of his overtakes? So they're going to give Valtteri Bottas driver of the day, and fair play as well. Bottas has driven a fantastic race. As Hamilton is super close here through the S section. So he's really given it all. Could we see a little bit of a cheeky Kobayashi dive bomb here into the hairpin? No, he's certainly away too far back, as we had one of the Renaults locking up, but Hamilton's super, super close now. And I think that Hamilton should be able to get past on this lap, perhaps down to 130R. He's not going to get past down in towards Spoon, as Perez actually keeps Hamilton behind him here. And Vettel, and of course, and that's going to help Lewis Hamilton quite massively here. And this is certainly the closest he's been as they head down towards 130R, as Perez is still choosing to stay in front of Sebastian Vettel. Mate, you're a lap down, as he surely gets out of the way for both cars now. And indeed he does.
By the way, it's Stroll, I think, in P10, struggling with dead tyres. I think it is.
Oh, yes, it is. It is Lance Stroll. My bad there.
Yeah, Perez catching very quickly. And Hamilton, DRS down the pit straight, not close enough on lap 50 out of 53. If they've got any more fuel or engine mode to burn, they've got to burn it. Because, again, if they want this Constructors, they've got to give it everything now. With only 3.5 laps to go, as Raikkonen has gone up to P15. And Hamilton trying to close in Dunlop. And now there's two cars very close ahead. It's Gasly and Hülkenberg fighting like crazy over 8th place. Vital positions so that leaders can't expect to be just let through. And Hamilton will close up a lot. And yeah, look, Vettel gets held up. And now Hamilton, look at the Hamilton getting a great run out of the hairpin. Hülkenberg, you've got to let them go now. And surely he does. And yes, he does. Hamilton, oh, look, he's closing. We can get a great run out of here. Look how close he's getting, but he's going to run a bit wider. But he's always got a bit of a slipstream. Here we go. Lewis Hamilton on Sebastian Vettel going down to the chicane. Can he get enough of a slipstream to maybe think about a move? Will he go for it? No, he will not. Vettel, though, still held up. Oh, Vettel's gone wide. And Lewis gets the cut back on the exit of the chicane. Surely Lewis can get the move done. Vettel, though, will get DRS as well. Lewis Hamilton in the slipstream. Can he get the move done on Sebastian Vettel down to turn 1? Hamilton, will he go round the outside? No, he will not. But will we get a switch back in the exit turn 2 and do anything? No, but oh, he's so close to it. He's so close to an overtake here, Nib.
Yeah, but crucially now for Lewis Hamilton, all of the traffic is out of the way, meaning Vettel not get DRS the next time around. And I think we should see Hamilton get through. And very, very lucky there was Vettel. Well, of course, Gasly did hold him up there, but quite crucially gave him the DRS to make sure that he could stay ahead of Hamilton. Because if it wasn't for DRS, he certainly would have been overtaken there. As you can see, how slow Vettel is almost coming to what? Well, I think there's obviously the camera angle is disturbs that image quite a little bit, almost coming to a standstill in the middle of the Kobayashi hairpin, as I've dubbed it now. As Giovinazzi's in the pits, perhaps to retire. I'm not too sure if they've done a pit stop on the second to last lap here, but Hamilton certainly looks a little bit too far back to be making a move, but of course, if you can gain a lot of time in the braking zone for this chicane and try and get a move done into turn one, I think that's where he's most likely as Lewis Hamilton to get a move done, as we're seeing Toto Wolff now. Fantastic to see Toto there when we need to be watching the actual action for once, as Hamilton now has DRS on the run down to turn one, but he's only gained about a tenth and a half there on Sebastian Vettel, as he's so much quicker in turn 1 and 2 than the Ferrari. And I'm sure Hamilton is getting a little bit frustrated, because this certainly isn't the thing that Mercedes do, pitting their cars to put them behind another driver, as Hülkenberg, Gasly and Perez are very, very close on track now, squabbling for P8.
Absolutely. That's a great battle. I hope we get a shot of it, but we won't. Perez has passed Hülkenberg. Perez has gained so much time. He was a pit stop behind, and now he's passed Hülkenberg. Perez is flying in the racing point, and he should pass Gasly in a moment. Of course, we're not going to see it, because who wants to watch the worthless midfield, according to FOM? As Hamilton, we're now lap 52 out of 53, by the way, the penultimate lap of this Japanese Grand Prix. It's been a very good Grand Prix. Great battles. And Hamilton passes Vettel. The constructors is Mercedes. But if he doesn't, then it goes on to Mexico, even though, of course, they are going to win it anyway. And here we go. Hamilton is closer this time. And he'll get a bit of a run through 130R. Will he launch it? No, he won't. But he is closer, is Lewis Hamilton, to Sebastian Vettel. And now we're on the final lap. This is Lewis's chance now. He's got to just go for it now. And now gets in the DRS. Can he possibly go for a move on Sebastian Vettel? No, he can't. The Ferrari is so good in a straight line. But Lewis has the grip. Does he go down the inside of turn 2? No, he had a very, very quick car into that corner. Perez is P9 and Hülkenberg is P10. Perez is now P8 in the racing point. Perez is coming out of nowhere. Oh no, Perez has gone off. We're not... there you go.
In the wall.
He's in the wall. He's blown 8th place, and Sergio Perez is out of the Japanese Grand Prix.
On the exit of turn 2, obviously there's been some contact there. But Hamilton still trying to see if he can get past Sebastian Vettel. It's going to be very, very tough to do so now. And Hamilton running extremely wide there to try and get as much or straighter exit as possible to try and get past Sebastian Vettel, but he's not going to be able to get it done into Spoon Curve. Let's see if he can potentially get it done down into 130 yards. Going to take an absolute rocket ship of a Mercedes to get past an absolute rocket ship that is the Ferrari in a straight line. And here we go. We're about to pick up... No, I thought we were going to pick up Valtteri Bottas, who's about to win the Grand Prix. And there we go.
Valtteri Bottas wins the 2019 Japanese Grand Prix. Great drive by Valtteri. He completely destroyed the rest of the field out there. And Vettel finishes second. Lewis Hamilton is third. Mercedes do not take the Constructors' World Championship. They will, though, surely take it in Mexico City. But, just trying to remember, so I think, Hamilton has the fastest lap. That's 16 points. Plus 25, that's 41 to Ferrari's 26. So, they've only outscored them by... How much have they outscored them by? I'm trying to think. Have they done it?
I think they have actually done it.
So 25, 41. Yeah, I think they've done it. I think Mercedes actually have won the Constructors because of Lewis Hamilton's fastest lap point. So I think we should see confirmation in a moment. Nib, if you can find out, that'd be great. But I think they won the Constructors. And Perez, we're going to see a replay, I'm sure, in a minute. But I think I know what's happened. He's gone for it, turn 1 and turn 2. And just, here we go. Goes round the outside of Gasly into turn 1. And either contact or just a spin. And he goes into the barriers. That's a shame.
Oh, there's absolute contact there between the two.
Gasly might get a penalty for that. Yeah, I think Gasly might get a penalty for that. He was clearly behind. And he spun. Sergio Perez out of the Grand Prix.
And indeed, Mercedes have won the Constructors' title.
Well, congratulations to Mercedes. They've done it again, 6th year in a row. They are clearly, by an absolute mile, the best team in Formula One, and they fully deserve yet another Constructors' World title. But I'm going to try and do the order if I can. So, winning the race, Valtteri Bottas from Vettel 2nd, Hamilton 3rd, then Albon, Sainz, Leclerc, Ricciardo, Gasly, Hulkenberg, Stroll, Kvyat, Norris, then is Kimi Raikkonen, I believe, in 13th place, from Grosjean in 14th position. 15th is Antonio Giovinazzi. Then it should be Magnussen. Then I'll just put Perez in 17th. Not sure if Perez has lapped the Williamses. Might have done in the Grand Prix. But yeah, that was a pretty good Japanese Grand Prix. Plenty of controversy, plenty of things to discuss, and there you go. Official confirmation, they have won the 2019 Formula One Constructors World Championship. But guys, let us know in the live chat right now for the next 15 minutes before we come off this stream. Let us know, what did you think of the race? Who was your driver of the day? And what would you rate the race out of 10? And if you want to offer any thoughts on what happened, the controversies, the contacts, the overtakes, then let us know right now in the live chat. And I'll make sure to read it out as, Lewis Hamilton's fastest lap point has won them the Constructors. But again, Valtteri, great drive today. Completely dominated the Grand Prix of Japan. Nib, for this race, what would you rate out of 10, and who is your driver of the day?
I'm going to give it a 7.5. I think it's better than a 7, but it's not quite an 8. A very solid Japanese Grand Prix, quite exciting from start to finish. And I think you have to give driver of the day to Valtteri Bottas. He drove a fantastic race, fantastic start, which ultimately won him the race. He dominated the race from really start to finish. And for me, he is driver of the day.
Well, for a rating for me, I'd have to go 7 out of 10 for the race. If Hamilton had passed Vettel, though, in a great move, it would have been probably an 8 or a 9, because that was something we were really looking forward to. Driver of the day, though, I wouldn't go for Valtteri Bottas. I'd go for Daniel Ricciardo. But I have to say, Valtteri Bottas today has driven superbly well, dominated the race, left them in the dust at the start. And ever since then, no one else could compete. By the way, very interesting to note that for some reason, Charles Leclerc finished 2nd in the Driver of the Day voting. I have no idea why. Carlos Sainz finished in 3rd in the Driver of the Day voting. But other great performers are, Carlos Sainz.
Because we've seen all of Charles Leclerc's overtakes. That's why. And even though there was battling going on in the midfield, and Leclerc was pitting. Of course, we've seen Leclerc's pit stop. I need to head off for a moment, just to cool.
No problem, mate. I understand. It is very frustrating, by the way, guys. When you're watching a race, you can see on the order that there's a gap of like 1/10 of a second between drivers, which is, great close Formula One racing, and they're not showing it. They're showing Lewis Hamilton cruising through turn 1 and turn 2. I'm sure you guys can understand our frustration and the frustration of many Formula One fans around the world. But yeah, when it comes to who's performed well today, Bottas, Hamilton to a point, but you have to say qualifying and race not as good as Valtteri, which is a bit disappointing for him. Albon drove well, Sainz drove very well. Ricciardo, for me, is driver of the day. Gasly drove well. Perez, I think, drove very well today. Probably should have got P8, but got took up by Gasly on the final lap. And yeah, those are the star drivers. So who's that? Bottas, Albon, Sainz, Ricciardo, Gasly, Perez. I think definitely those drivers, you've got to say. Very good performances today. But let's see what you guys have to say. Live chat. Right. See what you guys have to say. Trotter says Daniel Ricciardo driver of the day. Don't make me laugh. Well, provide why you don't think so. But 16th to P7. I think that's a pretty good drive, especially when you consider that Renault were very slow this morning in qualifying. Eugene Kelly, they should have kept Hamilton out. Well, from his own personal result, yes. But Mercedes' aim today was to win the Constructors' World Championship. And they have. So, for them, it doesn't matter, really. It really doesn't matter where Lewis Hamilton's finished today, because their aim was to clinch the World Constructors' title, which they have done. So, yeah, again, it doesn't matter. Let's look at some other comments here. Kooky Monster says, Leclerc is getting more like Verstappen as the season goes on. Yeah, Leclerc didn't exactly drive great today. Seki Hybrid asks, let me find that. Chazza, how many points does Hamilton need to score in Mexico for World Drivers' Championship? Well, he has to be 75 points clear after the Mexican Grand Prix finishes. And how many points ahead is he now? I'm trying to think how many points ahead he is. I think before the race, he was 73 clear of Bottas. So now it is, how many points? 64 points behind is Bottas. So Hamilton has to outscore Valtteri by 11 points in Mexico, and Lewis is world champion. So if Lewis wins the race in Mexico and Valtteri finishes in third, but Lewis gets the fastest lap point, then Lewis will win the championship. Or if Lewis finishes first and Valtteri is not on the podium, Lewis is world champion. That's how it works. He has to have at least 75 points after the Mexican Grand Prix is finished, which he might have. We'll have to see how Valtteri does though in Mexico. RD saying, am I wrong to say Mercedes are focusing on next year's car already? Yeah, I think that's pretty clear to see given the lack of upgrades they brought. They did bring one this weekend, but this is the final one they're bringing for the season. And yeah, I think Mercedes, since the summer break, have been concentrating on 2020 for sure a lot. Yeah, look out for them, of course, in 2020, and they'll be near impossible to beat in 2020, even if their car is about equal with Ferrari, because still, operationally, Mercedes are the best team in Formula 1. There's not even a doubt about it. Astro Stevo, Ferrari now have the better car. In qualifying trim they did, but you have to say in the race, no, they had nowhere near the best car. Ever since the lights went out, Ferrari went nowhere in this Grand Prix. And again, their jinx of the Japanese Grand Prix continues. They haven't won here in 15 years, and that continues to 2020. A bit of a disaster for them. I'm going to read out probably 2 or 3 more comments, and then I think we'll come to the end of the stream. Mainly, guys, because I have done a lot today. I streamed from 1 a.m. to about 3:15. Quickly uploaded a qualifying review, and then I had to, rush around to get this ready. And we've been streaming for about 2 hours and 40 minutes, and I'm absolutely knackered. So, yeah, we'll read out a final few comments, and then we'll come to the end of the stream. Henry Watchalong, fair play to Vettel, holding up Lewis. He's really changed a lot since Singapore. Yeah, I think that's because of the Ferrari car improvement, especially at the rear end. Raghav Gupta saying this is the first time the Japanese Grand Prix has been won from the second row. I remember someone saying that. Maybe you said that before the race started. And yeah, Valtteri has gone and broke that with a great Grand Prix. Right, one final comment and then we'll come to the end of the stream. And you know what? Considering how mad we got, Mr. Labman saying the FIA should wear red always. Okay. But, guys, that is it for the 2019 Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka. And, well, what a day we have had of action at Suzuka. Just to let you guys know, in a moment, I'll start recording once the stream is finished, my race review for this race, and then I'll be thankfully going off to bed after a very, very long day. Nib, thanks for coming on, mate, helping out the stream. And yeah, great to have you on, mate. And yeah, we'll see you next time for the podcast early next week.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks for having me on as usual, mate. It was actually a very so happy to see, and of course, Mercedes clinched their 5th consecutive Constructors World Championship. And until next time, guys, I hope you all have a very good week and couple of days. And yeah, we'll see you later.
Yep, see you later, mate. And yeah, great to have him on. And by the way, just to let you guys know of what is coming up between now and Mexico, I'll let you guys know of that now. So race review coming out in, I don't know, half an hour for you guys to binge on until my next video. And then incident analysis video, Monday, 12 p.m. UK time. Make sure you're there because we're going to get into the controversy. We're going to get into the Perez-Gasly crash, the Leclerc Verstappen, and I'm sure I'm going to look at the Vettel jump start. How that wasn't a penalty is truly mental. Truly mental. And then after that, me and Niv are going to put the podcast out a lot earlier. We're going to put it out on Tuesday and continue the discussion of what's happened at Suzuka and also look at the new updates from the Japanese Grand Prix, such as the new upgrade for Mercedes, Williams, Renault, and then maybe another team as well. We'll have to see. So don't forget to go to that video. And next week is actually going to be a bit busy of a week because I'm going to upload 2 more opinion or analysis type videos. Say around Thursday and Friday, and I think it might be those 2 days in a row. I don't know what videos there'll be as of yet, but there are 3 opinion videos I've got coming out after the podcast comes out on Tuesday, and the preview for Mexico, of course, the day before the Mexican Grand Prix gets underway, which is not next Thursday, of course, the Thursday after. One video is going to be me looking at, you know, is Mercedes, this current Mercedes team, are they the greatest F1 team in history? I'm going to look at that in a video. Also going to look at if Red Bull can win with Honda in the future, whether this partnership is going to be a World Championship winning partnership. And also got another video coming that is a bit of a technical piece about just how the teams have progressed in 2019. I'll get more updates on that when I, have known more, have decided what the video is properly going to be about. So 2 videos coming out on Thursday and Friday, and then a video coming out on Monday, the week off Mexico. Then there'll be a 2-day break. Then there'll be a video on Thursday, the week of Mexico, for the preview for Mexico. And then we'll do this all again for the Mexican Grand Prix of 2019. So guys, don't forget to subscribe for that content. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. Or go to my homepage and do it there and hit the notifications bell. Hit the like button. Really does help out the channel. Comment down below what you thought of this video. And also, what did you think of the race and what happened in the race here in Japan? Don't forget to join our Discord server, link below in the description. Best place that is for notifications of my videos and streams. Follow me on Twitter at Chaz6110. Check out my website, chazahd.com, and like my Facebook, ChazahDF1. And I just want to say before I go, thank you guys so much for being around today for all the streams, all the sessions. You guys, you may say that I'm, super committed and all of that, but you guys are exactly the same. Without me being, without you guys actually being as committed to watching me, then I wouldn't, show this absolute level of, grind and commitment. So thank you guys so much for the support as of late, and I cannot wait to talk to you guys again very, very soon. But guys, until my next video, which is the race review coming out soon, and the next few videos, and until the next Grand Prix in 2019, the 2019 Mexican Grand Prix, it has been me, ChazahD. Goodbye.